Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Real Estate Future Summit. It's a pleasure to welcome you here today. Today, we're going to look at the pioneering topic that has been going on within this year about real estate in Ghana and around the world. We want to learn how to find, purchase, and invest in properties. This is proudly brought to you by the Ntim Group, the Global Startup Ecosystem, and the Ghana Tech Hub. Welcome, everyone, once again. Before we go any further, just watch a recap video of our workshop series that has been going on throughout the year. So that was a recap video from the real estate workshop series that has been organized by Ntim Group throughout this year. So now, what is the Real Estate Future Summit all about? The Real Estate Future Summit is a leading global gathering that curates an active network of real estate investors, mortgage brokers, property developers, lawmakers, and business moguls. This program hopes to bring together thousands of global experts to discover opportunities, address and tackle challenges that affect the real estate markets. The summit will serve as a platform for young and seasoned real estate professionals who are sourcing innovative solutions and partners to add to expand their investment scheme. They will also provide opportunity to collaborate and shape the next generation of the property market. This event is live via our various social channels and also live networking via Zoom on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and also on the websites that have been shared with you. So, what do we know about the Ntim Group that's organizing this real estate future summit? The Ntim Group Properties Limited builds moderately priced homes of high quality standards and using innovative on-site manufacturing processes. Ntim Group Properties aims to establish itself as a leading developer in Ghana, offering master planned residential properties at moderate prices in landscape green communities. As such, Ntim Group provides a series of programming to educate stakeholders in the real estate industry, from buyers to sellers to real estate agents to service providers and many more. Ntim Group has been organizing real estate workshops from the beginning of the year, each month from January up to December, and also it's culminating it with this Real Estate Future Summit. So we are glad to welcome you to this summit today. The theme for this summit is Real Estate Renaissance, Pioneering Pathways and Global Horizons. As we go along the agenda today, we'll delve more into this theme, and various panels that will come on would give insights on the theme and on various themes that are related to the theme we've chosen for this real estate summit. So stay with us as we go through the agenda for today's session. Okay, so we've had these summits, these workshops over the years, and we're grateful to all the speakers that we've managed to close out for this particular summit today. You'd see some familiar faces that I've seen throughout the workshop series, and then you'd see some new ones as well. We are grateful to all our partners that have brought this together, including the Global Startup Ecosystem and the Ghana Tech Summit as well. For the agenda today, we would have our first keynote speaker will be joining us shortly to give a keynote address. Then we'll have another keynote address. We'll have the first panel on innovative financing for real estate investors. Then we'll have the second panel, which would be on global perspective of the future of real estate careers. Then we'll have the third panel on the trends and opportunities in the property market. And we'll have a keynote address, a keynote address and closing remarks from the CEO and then the managers of the Ntim Group, Christine and Einstein in team. So look, you can stay with us as we go through the agenda today. Before we welcome our first speaker for the day, let's take another recap of the real estate workshop series. Welcome back. To give our first keynote address for the summit today, we have Benga Ismail. Benga is the Vice National Chairman of the Association of Estate Agents in Nigeria, and we are pleased to welcome him to the Real Estate Future Summit today. He's an iconic individual within real estate, and it's a pleasure to have him on our platform today. So without wasting my time, I would like to welcome Benga to the Real Estate Future Summit, the first annual Real Estate Future Summit. Welcome, Benga.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good, thank you very much. I'm happy. I started my note saying good morning because I thought the time was 10 a.m., but it's now good afternoon, so I'll change it to good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Can you see my screen? I am seeing the. Yes, thank you very much. So just make sure that I can be seen. So thank you, Ntim Group, for giving me this platform to speak and share with us, your large and varied audience. I am here to speak, and my focus is real estate, and particularly real estate strategies, especially in decision making, a roadmap for success. This is going to be 20 minutes, and I will speak straight to the points. The subject purpose is strategic decision making. What then is this in simple terms? Strategic decision making is the process of making choices related to an organization or yourself or person, and in overall and determining your overall long-term direction. It simply means identifying the best way to achieve your goals and objectives. And if it's an organization, it's the goals of that particular organization. In so saying, what then is the best way to achieve real estate success? Now, so when I mean real estate success, real estate is broad. You could either be coming from an investor point of view or the professional point of view, either as an agent or broker. It depends what you want to be, what you want to do in real estate. A lot of what I would probably say today would be towards the investor person or entity. So I wouldn't talk much on the broker agent side of things, but I will speak towards how you can best take advantage of real estate as an opportunity. So my direction today will be focused on what to look out as you set to building your portfolio for success. Before you start, the decision tree will be like this. And then I read as follows: investigating the situation that is ahead of you. This means, what is your purpose? What's your objective as an investor? What am I purchasing for? Now, I use this word purchase I will come back to it later on. So investigate what is ahead of you, what you want to do. Create a constructive environment, your best form to operate in. Now, the best form to operate in, and when I'd like to give some examples, simply means, how do I want to go into this foray? How do I want to go in real estate? Do I want to go together with people? Do I want to go solely? Do I want to set up a company? Do I want to get people to do it for me? Do I want to invest in, where do I want to invest in? Do I want to invest in Africa? Do I want to invest in Ghana? Do I want to invest in Nigeria, Europe, or North America? So create the constructive environment for yourself to determine where you want to do this. Generate good alternatives. So what are your viable options? Again, you must do a lot of research and due diligence for this. Which area do you want to be involved in? Which area do you want to go in? So in real estate, there are different areas. If you want to go into residential, if you want to go into commercial, retail, or industrial, even as I will say much later on, infrastructure. So you need to determine what viable alternatives there are for you. Explore your options. Once you've gone through the due diligence of what you want to do, you determine it, look through it, assess it. Then select. Select where you're going to go to. Evaluate your plan. Remember, we've been assessing, determining, reviewing, and viewing. Now you have to go to the plan stage, evaluating your plan. How am I going to get it done? And what do I need to do? Now, this is a tree that gives you your entire process. So it's not a one-day event. It's not a one-day event that takes you into actualizing real estate immediately. So it's a process that involves people knowledge and what I'll use the word courage. People knowledge and courage. So it's a process in itself. Then you communicate your decision and take action. Now, taking action is what lands you on your journey and your destination path. Now, taking action for me is the most important aspect of what you need to do. Because if you do all the other ones and you don't take action, then it's what I call analysis and then paralysis. So let's conceptualize real estate investment. I'll take it from basic up, and this is a simple definition that everybody is familiar and aware of, but I'll pick certain things as I'm defining it. Real estate investment is the practice of purchasing property as an investment rather than as a primary residence in order to generate income. It may simply be defined as any piece of land, structure, infrastructure, or other tangible assets that are often immobile, yet transferable to get a profit from it. So, what do I mean by that? What do I want to take out of that definition? These are the words I want you to note down. Practice. Real estate investment is the practice. So please, let's take the word practice. I'll speak to it. Then it goes to say the word of purchasing. So please note down the word purchasing. Then it goes to rather than as a primary resident in order to generate income. So generate income is the third phrase I would like you to identify with. Then it may be simply defined as land, which is basic land. That's a form of an investment that you can put your resources to. Structure. Now, structure is where I broke down to residential, commercial, retail, industry, warehouse, or such things. And then infrastructure. Now, infrastructure is more complex. That's when you start investing in roads, ports, and all of those things, and airports. But it's a more complex and advanced level of investment. Or other tangible assets, yet transferable. So transferable, our fifth term, transferability, and finally, profitable. So therefore, if you're going to be successful in investing in real estate, it means, as I said, the first word is practice. Now, the practice is the word strategy. Practice and strategy are more or less the same word. The more you practice something, the better you get in it. The better your strategy becomes in attacking and executing the task ahead of you. So it says, that's why the word practice for me is very important in the definition of real estate investment. Practice is the basic terminology for strategy. So good practice will take us to good strategy for real estate. So how do you do practice for real estate? How do you get a strategy? You must outline. You must create your plan, as I mentioned before. And they're in a broad basis, and most people usually get an expert and an advisor for this, to tell them what they need to know, what they need to get involved in. I recently got involved with a client who was going into land banking investment here in Nigeria, and identified two locations, Lagos and Port Harcourt, and wanted to invest in it, and asked us to give a market study that went back 10 years and look forward 5 years, which simply meant that how prices for land performed 10 years prior to our engagement, and what was our projection for the 5 years coming. They were looking at buying up land, creating a land bank, and then using this to provide a supply base for those who might want land in the future. So they wanted to know what and how prices had moved over time in order to know what they could look at. So market analysis remains very important in what you do for practice and strategy. Understand your local market, understand the trends, know what demand is doing, and know what supply should be doing. Are you close to supply end? Is land thinning out? Because land is not an infinite product. It is infinite. It runs out after a while. So you need to know where you are in the supply logistics. Demand, on the other hand, can keep growing as much as possible, which causes and forces prices to go up. Identify your target demographics. See who it is that you need to focus your decided niche market. Where you playing and who is in that area. That's what identify target demographics. Financial evaluation, risk assessments, long-term vision. So these are important aspects that you need to be familiar with once you're going into the real estate investment. So from a novice point of view, I wouldn't go deep into most of what this thing is saying. I would ask you to understand, first and foremost, your appetite for real estate and understanding the local market. Understand the areas within the local market you've decided to go into. Remember, we talked about the constructive environment you want to operate in. So if you know and have decided where you want to go and where's best to put your resources, where you're most comfortable in terms of location, then you now decide to go into a market study. What are the performing structures and investment there? So I use the word structure to determine residential, commercial, industrial, retail. even land. You ask yourself, which one do I understand the most and which one am I most comfortable in? That's your market analysis study done. Now, once it goes into financial evaluation, you need an expert to do that, to tell you how well your investment will do. So in a basic term, this is what it is. If I buy land today, 2023, for I'm going to use dollars to have a understandable currency for everyone. For $1,000, and to buy a plot of land, for instance, I know that this land generates no income. So I'm only looking at capital appreciation. And I keep it for a month. Nothing happens. Prices haven't moved. It hasn't gone either direction, but it's still the same. It tells you one thing, that either the market is stable or people are not demanding if it's a good location. Again, that's another thing we need to look at. Location, location, location. A good location always brings positive price movements. So you buy land, but we know land does not give returns. It only appreciates. So therefore, land is viewed as a long-term asset. It needs to gestate in order to give you the returns that you may require. But it's a strong defender of your funds. Doesn't get lost, doesn't go anywhere. So that is what land does. But if in a years ahead, you will probably be able to see that you've gained 10 or 20% in the price that you paid for it after removing certain costs that have been involved in taking ownership of that land. So in that sort of way, you can measure the performance of land that you have bought over time going ahead. So that's a simple basis for someone who's coming in and wants to invest in real estate in this part of town, which is, I talk about Nigeria and also in Accra. But in the more developed countries, hardly would you find the, land banking as a major option. But there are locations where people do land banking and do it for land speculation and just do trading. So a lot of those who invest in land are known as the real estate traders and doing more in that kind of investment. Now, when you go further and you start buying investment property, which simply means this property has been, this structure, there's now a structure on it. The structure is either residential, which is being rented for someone who is going to live in it for occupational purposes, then the rent now becomes the income that is measured. That rent is what you measure against other investment options that will be available to show you how your investment in property is performing. So the rent aspect of any investment, once the structure of it, is your measuring indices for your investment and performance. So I go back to land. Land has no income, doesn't produce any generating income. Therefore, it's not measured and can only be measured on its appreciable attributes. That's a price that would be at the point of sale. So there would always be a need for evaluation at different times to see what the value of that investment is. However, once there's a structure upon it, there's the possibility that you will have rental income, and it's that rental income that you measure. Now, so that's where we look at the financial evaluation on returns. Conduct a thorough financial analysis considering acquisition cost, operational expenses, and potential returns. The returns are the rents. Acquisition cost, as I spoke to, you have to deduct that to know what your net positions are so that you can have a true measuring parameter for your investment. I see I've been told to wrap up in 20 minutes. I didn't know 20 minutes, it went so quick. So I've used, quickly going back to the issues that I was talking about. So practice is the strategy that I've just spent a lot of time talking about. Purchase is the actual act of the action of going forward to do something. That's what I initially said out of the outline, the decision tree. The last point of it is take action. Purchase is the action part of it. You take action by purchasing. You making sure that your purchase has an income, generating income. So you must be able to identify and see where the returns are, either in capital appreciation or in rent income. Then, in determine again, land, building, or infrastructure. Another very important point before you conclude or you do everything is that you must make sure the asset you've bought is transferable by yourself. That means you must have registered it. You must see the pathway that of registration. You must be able to register the property that you have bought. If you do not register it, then you may not be able to transfer it. I use the word again, you may not be, but you will not be able to transfer it if you do not register it. Now, if it is not transferable, in most instances, the lawyer will tell you you shouldn't buy it if it is not transferable. If documents are not available that proves ownership and proves that it can be transferred to you and registerable by you, which would enable your ability to transfer, do not purchase it. Finally, profitability. It's not in all cases that you will be profitable in any venture, but most of the time in real estate, I tell people you should be profitable. Your decision and your financing method would always take you to a point of profitability and where you should be successful in your real estate adventure. So you must always be looking towards making a viable and profitable experience when you're involved in real estate. The things that go wrong and hamper our investment in real estate is that if we get financing wrong and we get the legal aspect of it wrong, then it will be a bit harder. So my final words is the foundations for successful real estate involvement. 4, finance. Finance very key. If you do not have the funding, you will not be able to go into real estate investment. But there are ways you can come together with people, group together, start small, cooperatively. 4, 5, 6 people can come together if you don't have the funds for yourself to go into it. Funding is very, very key. Discipline, another major ingredient in real estate investment. You have to be disciplined. You have to always be focused, understanding what you need to do, know your details, know your due diligence, understand what you're about to do. Compliance, that's regulation. Make sure your documents are in place, your approvals for buildings are in order, your legal documents are there, you've bought from the right person, it's legal, and you own it at the end of the day. And always take professional advice. That's the 4th one. Always have an advisor by your side who understands real estate and knows the local market that you have decided to take part in. On this note, I wrap up and I finish my keynote address. And I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Venga, for coming on. It was a real pleasure having you on today. I love the last bit where you threw more light on the 4 things, at least the foundations of real estate, talking about funding, or finance, even if you can't do it as a person, doing it in groups, it's really important to do that as well. And then discipline, being disciplined, so it's always important, and making your due diligence and taking professional advice. And also, I love the soundbite about we take action in real estate by purchasing. It was a real pleasure having you on this session today. It's always inspiring listening to you, and there's so much to learn from you as for those who are interested in real estate. So thank you so much for joining us for the Real Estate Future Summit today, and we'll connect with you for future engagements as well. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that was our first speaker for today in the person of Benga. We'll now be transitioning to our next keynote address. We would have Odette Namekumi. Odette is the president of the Ghana Real Estate Professionals Association, GREPA. It's a real pleasure to have Odette on the Real Estate Future Summit today. Welcome, Odette, and the stage is all yours. You are muted.
Am I on now?
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. And well, I think good morning in some parts. So I'm going to be speaking on empowering real estate professionals for tomorrow's success. There's certain skills or knowledge that they should really have to know about in order to be successful as a real estate agent. So the first skill I always say is very important as a real estate agent to be good at is the skill of networking and collaboration, because you can't be a real estate agent and just hope for referrals and recommendations. You have to actually go out there and be with the people, and by talking with them, then people get to know exactly what you do. So networking, I find, is very important for real estate agents, and collaborating with other real estate agents as well, and others within the industry. So basically you find that today's real estate professional needs to foster connections with the industry, including collaborations with other related professionals, that's architects, builders, and valuers. Networking brings leads and also provides valuable insights and opportunities for joint ventures. So that's what I just talked about, that networking and collaboration is very important for real estate agents. Okay, you can't be a real estate agent and hide under a bushel and think that by your good deeds you'll be known. You'll be known eventually, but you won't have enough sort of people coming to you and asking for basically what real estate do, providing properties, etc. So it's important for networking and collaboration that real estate agents do that. One of the skills. Another skill is technological interpretation. Right now with real estate, we have the new buzzword, which is prop tech, which is technology in property. So it's the application of property technological tools to help real estate agents, real estate professionals, and anybody within the real estate industry. And so tomorrow's real estate professional will have to know how to use technological tools for property management, for data analysis, and for digital marketing. Okay, PropTech, which is basically property technology, is used to help facilitate some of these to facilitate real estate deeds. So I find that nowadays we're talking about artificial intelligence, and I always tell the story of how I had this young chap come and decide help me put up a new website, and he said it was going to be AI based, in the sense that once we log in the information, AI will be able to pick up the location and all the amenities and all the infrastructure around it. So you find that right now that's the way to go, and artificial intelligence is obviously a good way for real estate agents also to better their service that they give to their clients. Because if you have artificial intelligence helping you with your website and other things and property management, data analysis, I think you'll be at least one step ahead. Also, I find that with real estate agents, it's important that your website and social media um, platform should be all sort of equal, should be, what did I write here? Your online presence is very important. Make them active and current. Upload constant updates. And it's important that all content on all social media um, platforms be consistent. Okay, you find that, so some real estate agents, they have different information here, different information here. No, all your information should be consistent across board, so that you have your numbers, every number is correct on each board, and they're active, and you have the right people picking up the phone calls. Because again, your company image is based on what you put out there through the phone. So it's very important that you try at least to have a good sort of answering mechanism where the right person picks up the phone and the right message is put out there. Because one bad call and your business could be um, could collapse from that. So for websites and social media, it's important. What I have here is your online presence is very important. Make them active and current. Upload constant updates, and it's important that all content on all social media pages be consistent across all platforms. Show what you can do, how you can do it, and where you do them. When your office is closed, and when you're asleep, when your online presence is, and where people will find you. When there's nobody available to give information, at least let there be information on your working hours as well, which is also important. Okay, so that people know what time to get you and when you're not available. I also talked about customer relationships, which is also very important going forward, because you see, customers are the ones who will refer you, recommend you. So it's very important your relationship with your customers. Okay. So we have here, tomorrow's real estate professionals should develop strong interpersonal and communication skills to build and maintain client relationships. Understanding the client's needs and providing personalized solutions is crucial. So, as I said, it's important that you're very sort of in touch with your clients. It's always good to be, you're not just peering into the business, but at least give them a call every now and then to find out if everything is okay, if they need your services, etc., etc. Because the customer is the one who's going to refer you to another customer, and by that you grow your business. Okay, so it's very important. Also, knowledge about the market trends is also very important. You can't be a real estate agent and not know what's going on in the market. It's essential that you know the market trends, what the current situation is in the market, whether there's a dip, whether the market is soft. It's important to know, so also for your own good in terms of your own finances, whether it's not that you're not doing well, but it's because the economy, the situation. So what I have here is tomorrow's real estate professional must stay abreast of current market trends, including, so I talk about urbanization patterns, demand for specific types of properties, and emerging areas for real estate development. So, right now we also find that we have in real estate as well, we have smart homes. Okay, so smart homes is the latest trend, and especially in Accra, where they have smart homes coming up with all sort of smart application and technologies. So, as I said here, in recent times, there's a trend in smart applications and smart homes in Ghana. It's also important to have an idea of your regulatory compliance. Okay, you don't want to fall foul of the law and whatever you're doing, etc. So you must keep updated on local real estate regulations and legal frameworks to navigate property transactions smoothly and ensure compliance with evolving industry standards. It's very important to know your regulatory um, uh, compliance thing, because you have to always know and be on top of this information, because clients come to you for advice. Clients call you up not just for property; they sometimes call you up to seek counsel, and you should be able to know exactly what the situation is, what the market trends are, what the laws are, and what they allowed to do or not to do. Okay, then I think I'm talking about financial literacy. Financial literacy, we must learn to enhance our financial knowledge. It's not all right to say, oh, I don't know anything about accounting. You must know about the basics at least, so that when somebody calls you up and asks, what is my return on my investment based on that, or what will I get if I rent out my house, what's the yield? You should have an idea. We must learn to enhance our financial knowledge, to acquire the basics, to analyze investment opportunities for clients, assess risks, and make informed decisions. To understand mortgage structures, which is very important as well, so that you can help your clients when they come and they want to seek advice for, sorry, they want to speak advice for, sorry, am I on still? So I went off.
Hello, Odette. You
Yes.
are still. Please
Am I
go
still
on.
on? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sorry. I just went off for some reason. I don't know what happened, but I don't see myself. Okay. All right then. So I was talking about um, financial literacy. It's important to be financially, at least have some sort of financial knowledge to acquire the basics, so that you can help your clients with investment decisions, to access risks and make informed decisions. To understand mortgage structures, I was talking about, and financial options is very essential. Also, sustainable practices. Right now, as I said, we're talking about going green. Everything is about smart sustainability. So it's important for tomorrow's real estate agents to also embrace themselves on sustainable and eco-friendly practices in real estate development and advocacy. Being knowledgeable about green buildings and energy efficient solutions aligns with global trends and future proofing the industry, which is very important. Okay, so sustainable practices, you should know about it, and you should also try and incorporate it into your marketing. So when you go and you're marketing homes, they should be at least green homes, as we're pushing more for sustainability. And then I think finally I talk about adaptability and the learning mindset. And I say here, given the dynamic nature of the real estate industry, professionals should cultivate an adaptable mindset and commitment to continuous learning. This includes staying informed about new technologies and industry best practices. By focusing on these aspects, tomorrow's real estate professionals can position themselves for success in a rapidly evolving industry, contributing to the growth and sustainability of the real estate sector in any country. So those were my topics for real estate agents. So we talked about for real estate agent, it's essential that the skills you should have in networking and collaboration, technological integration, websites and social media, and customer relationship. And for the knowledge, you must have know about market trends, know about regulatory compliance, financial literacy, sustainable practices, and adaptability and your learning mindset. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you so much, Odette. It was a real pleasure having you on. Thank you for sharing those insights with us today. It's always a pleasure learning from you about all matters relating to real estate, particularly here in Ghana. And we are really glad you could share your knowledge and insights with us here today. Thank you so much and do enjoy the rest of your day. We'll definitely connect in the future for other opportunities as well. Wishing you the best end of year.
Thank you. And Merry Christmas, everyone.
All right. So that was our second keynote speaker for the day, and it was a real pleasure having you on. We've had Benga and then Ismo. Now quickly transition to our first panel of the day. To help us moderate this panel, this panel is going to be discussing innovative financing for real estate investors. To help us moderate this panel, we have Ms. Bao Abdullah here from Ntim Group, and he has been managing the workshop series. So without wasting my time, welcome, Ms. Bao. It's glad to have you on today.
Thank you very much, Stan, for the warm introduction. And that was a very powerful speech from the past keynote speakers. And upcoming now is the first panel session for the day, which we will be tackling issues concerning real estate, specifically innovative financing for real estate investors. To help me discuss this theme, we have Abdulrazak Jima, who is the mortgage manager at Fidelity Bank Ghana. We also have Inshiraba Yao Sompa Ochre, a principal consultant at Sampa and Partners. Additionally, we have Hope Latte Nyanu, who is the head of mortgage home at Car Bank. And finally, we have Kweku Esie, the chief commercial officer at Seso Global Limited. Thank you very much for joining me this morning and afternoon, depending on where you are. It's been really great to have you here this morning. And to kick the panel started, I would want you to introduce yourself, tell us a bit about yourself and how it brought you to what you do today. Let's start with you, Abdulrazak.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone, and good morning to others. Yes, Abdulrazak Jima, currently the mortgage manager at Fidelity Bank. I have been in the mortgage business for the past 15 years, and where I've worked through and rose through the ranks from the process of mortgage origination, mortgage underwriting, closing and disbursement of mortgage loans to collections of mortgages, and so the entire chain of the mortgage operations. And then also been able to grow portfolio of books and move from several banks and currently with Fidelity Bank. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Now let's hear from you, Yao Sompa.
Okay, thank you, Matro. I hope you can hear me.
Yao Sompa, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you now.
Okay, I am speaking,
Okay, so
but
as Yao Sompa checks out the connectivity, we will come next to you, Kweku ACN.
But no, I don't know if you can hear me now. Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Welcome.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me now.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. My name is Yasumpa. I practice law, and I've been in finance for a while. I guess that's all I can say for now. But I hope we can have a great discussion about financing options. So I look forward to the conversation, man.
Wonderful. Next, let's hear from you, quickly.
Yeah, thank you. Real pleasure being on here. Very grateful to the Ntim Group and the team at GSC for having me here. And I'm very happy to be on this panel with these esteemed panelists. So my name is Kweku Essien, Chief Commercial Officer for CESO Global. CESO Global is the Zillow of Africa for those in the States. But really what we seek to do is utilize new technologies to bring trust and transparency to the real estate space, which we believe is really important towards creating a thriving industry. We are very happy to we work with over 100 real estate developers in Ghana, several banks, and so actually I'm very happy to be on this panel with some of these esteemed bankers who perhaps I'll engage with after this call. And really, our focus has been on the diaspora, especially, but we service also our local clients. So again, thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. Finally, let's hear from you also, Hope.
Thank you, Ms. Bao, for having me here, and I'm very excited to be part of this virtual meeting. My name is Hope Latte, currently with Car Bank, and I've been in the mortgage industry for over a decade. Razak happens to be a colleague. We started way back Ghana Home Loans, now First National Bank, and I have been in marketing of with respect to mortgages and business development. And currently, I happen to be the mortgage specialist with Car Bank. Thank you.
Wow, that's fantastic, and thanks very much for letting us know about a bit about your background and seeing how each and every one of you here has, in one way or the other, been engaged in the mortgage system or the financial sector of real estate is very amazing. Hope to have a very much interactive panel session. Okay, so I can see the blood is already boiling. So let me just chip in straightforward with the first question. I would want to start with you, Abdulrazak. In your perspective, what do you see to be the role of the banking sector in real estate investments today?
Thank you, Ms. Bao, and for the question. Yes, the banking sector plays a critical role in the real estate investment in the country. What it is that the banking sector help both the supply side of real estate investment and the demand side of real estate investment. So for instance, for the demand side, you will have the bank supporting individuals with mortgage loans and some financing options for people to be able to acquire their own properties, and also to assist people to be able to leverage on the capital of the bank to expand their real investment or real estate and portfolios. So that is for the demand side. So the banks helps in that by providing mortgages to such individuals to be able to acquire those properties. Now, there is also what we call the supply side. Now, for the supply side, what banks also do is that they also make available capital investment for people who want to be in that sector, and then helping them to be able to also expand. Now, within the entire value chain of real estate investment, you have the banks making available capital investment that will then provide funds and loans and credit facilities to developers and several firms within the chain, the value chain of real estate investment for construction of new properties and also for the development of the infrastructure of their development. So that is for both the supply and the demand side. Now, apart from that, the banks also offer what we call financial advisory services. to market players within the real estate sector. Now, banks offer advisory services to help investors to make an informed decisions about their real estate investment. Now, these decisions comes by providing insight into market trends and also the real estate or the interest rate that is available within the bank sector for people within the real estate investment or sector. And also, it also provide advisory services in the area of loans or loan options that are available for the investors within the real estate sector, whether to go on to take either a capital loan or to go in for a mortgage loan or to go in for what we call working capital loan or an overdraft. So this is some of the other options that banks also help or in assisting real estate investment in the economy. Now, also the banks also offer what we call escrow services to both the market players within the real estate sector. Now, escrow service is where the bank acts as an intermediary in a real estate transaction by holding funds in escrow until all conditions of sale are met. And then the bank then releases the funds to the party that needs to enjoy such a funds. So what it is that you will have a seller and a buyer who want to go into a transaction of acquiring a real estate investment. But what then happens is that the buyer wants to be sure that the seller can provide him with the property and the property has title. The seller wants to also ensure that the buyer can pay for the property that is available. So in so doing, the bank comes in as an intermediary by opening an escrow account where both the seller and the buyer sign on to, and they have some conditions precedent that will enable the bank to release the funds to allow the funds to move from the buyer to the seller. So that escrow service is also provided by the bank. So the bank plays key role in that transactions to help in getting all these transactions done. By so doing, it provides security to both parties because the buyer is protected, the seller is also protected. So the conditions of the sale of the investment is not done, the bank will not release the funds. So when it is done, then the funds is released for people to enjoy. So it's a critical role that banks play. And then finally, I also want to talk about what I call the foreign investment and support. Now, what it is that banks tend to facilitate foreign currency transactions for individuals who want to enter into or who are into the real estate subsector. Now, we provide assistance by helping the individual to navigate through the cross-border regulations, where for you to be able to move funds maybe from the diaspora to maybe Africa or to Ghana to undertake real estate investment, you cannot hold the cash and move it through the borders to Ghana. Now, what happens is that the banks then facilitate such a transaction by offering their platform for you to be able to, navigate that cross-border regulations and then make the funds available in the local economy for you to be able to undertake a real estate investment. So I would say it is key and it's very important that we understand that banks have a crucial role to play in the real estate investment in the country. So these are some of the things that and roles that I think banks play in real estate investment. Thank you very much. Ms. Bao, you are muted.
Oh, thank you very much for for notifying me. Yeah, so these are very critical issues, very critical information that you shared with us, and the role of the banking sector specifically cannot be neglected per se, especially within the real estate stream where the flow of funds is just in constant movement, and the source of funds is also very critical in that aspect. So, taking note of that, I want to come to you, Hope. When it comes to financing a home, what do you think are the best options that are currently available within the market? Okay, Hope, seems like you are muted. Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bao. Currently, when it comes to real estate financing, basically there are two options which currently is available to a prospect on the Ghanaian market. The first one is self-financing. Now, self-financing is basically an arrangement which a prospect makes with a developer, and it's being spread over a specific a short tenor, which is basically between 6 to 18 months for completion of payments to be done. And normally for this self-financing is tiered in tranches. Some are in 3, some are in 4, and some are in 5. Now, the other option, which is very common on the market, is the mortgage financing bit, where that one it's between a lender and a borrower, between a bank and a prospect. And for mortgages in Ghana, we have up to a period of maximum 20 years to repay the facility. Now, with these mode of financing, there are both pros and cons that comes with it. Now, to talk about mortgage pros, the repayment plan is a bit longer. The repayments are being made easy for you, and also you maintain residence whilst you are making payment. So, whereas for the self-financing, you have to move in, you have to finish the payment before you move in. With the mortgage financing bit, you move in once you make the repayment over the specified tenor. Now, some of the bit of disadvantages when it comes to mortgage bit is the upfront cost. You know, in Ghana, mortgages count with certain costs, which include down payment. You also need to do legal fees. You also need to do mortgage origination fee, which we call the facility fees or arrangement fee, and also the closing the other closing costs. One cons of the mortgage financing in Ghana has to do with the risk of losing in property if there is a default. And basically, if you default over the period, obviously you need to the bank needs to foreclose the facility. Now, with mortgages financing, which I think is the best option, let me take time to say briefly what are some of the things you need to consider when you want to access a mortgage in Ghana here. First of all, if you decide to take a mortgage, you need, first of all, to have your down payment ready. Basically, down payment is between 10 to 30%, depending upon the value of property. So one of the first steps is you need to assess your finances to make sure that you have a good budget and you can really do your down payment. Now, one other step you also need to consider when you are assessing the mortgage is you also need to have a good credit history or a good credit score. Regarding credit score or credit history, no bank is ready to do business with any applicant or any customer who has the history of bad credit. So one of the things you also need to consider when you are assessing a mortgage is you need to have good credit. Now, one of the third thing I would say you need to consider here is that you also need to get pre-approval. In getting pre-approval means that you also need to have idea of how much you can access. You need to have an idea of how much you can access, and also your monthly repayment that comes when you are being approved and the mortgages are being disbursed to you. Now, one of the other things which people also forget when it comes to mortgage financing is the understanding the ownership type. In buying residence or properties in Ghana, here currently, we have three basic titles. Normally, we have the freehold, we have the leasehold, and we have the alludia titles. The freehold is more precise term. What we prefer the ownership is a freehold over a specified period. Now, for the leasehold is up to a certain period where normally basically 99-year term, after which you can renew. And the other one, the alludia title term, which the lawyers can explain better. Now, to sum it up, when you are also accessing a mortgage finance in Ghana, is you also need to get a professional help, at least from a mortgage specialist or a mortgage a broker, so that you can really know the requirements and the things that you need when it comes to mortgage financing in Ghana. Thank you.
Okay, that was wonderful and with very rich information. The mortgage system sometimes can be very extreme, especially for new applicants. And these conversations have really helped demystify some of this information. So like Kweku ACN, you've been quiet for long, so let's hear from you next. Considering the role of financing in real estate, what trends and changes can be expected in the financing landscape, particularly in response to the current global economic shifts?
Yeah, no, great question, and I'll just even follow up from my colleagues here on the panel, in saying that I think mortgages are extremely important in the real estate sector in Ghana in particular, but any country as a whole, right? You find that Ghana's with respect to Ghana and a lot of sub-Saharan Africa, mortgages as a percentage of GDP is roughly about 1% or lower, right? Whereas in places like the United States, it's about 50%, and even before the crash was up to 70%, right? And so that tells you where the market is, but also then tells you where the opportunity is, right? And that there's a massive opportunity for those that can grab it to grow this particular part of the market and increase the supply of real estate in Ghana. And so to your point about the question around trends and where we as a company see this going, of course, the local market, I think, needs to be serviced. And there are clients there that require mortgages, certainly to for their own properties. But some of these things are structural, right? And perhaps need people outside of myself, right, a bit higher than my pay grade to get us to the level where the local market can be able to attain more mortgages, right? Better understanding, individuals' credit history, etc., and also just growing incomes in the country. And so where, Cesso Global as a startup, as a company within the tech world has decided to focus a lot of its attention on, and where we see the low-hanging fruits is with the diaspora, right? Where there's already a massive diaspora in Ghana, a massive Ghanaian diaspora in the United States, UK, Canada, elsewhere, who are interested in purchasing property back in Ghana and have been doing so for a long time. Data shows you that about $1 billion in remittance flows into some part of the real estate space, whether it be purchasing your own piece of land, construction, or pre-financing a home yourself. This has always been happening, but this number could grow even larger when you look at some of the numbers in terms of, when you look at Ghanaians in the United States, especially, these are some of the highest earners in the United States, right, itself, right? And so these are doctors, lawyers, very esteemed people who want to buy property back home, but perhaps, due to real and perception issues, have decided not to purchase property back home in Ghana, right? And we all know the stories, and these stories become legend, and then over time, sometimes it becomes a bit more than it actually is. Of course, there are issues with respect to buying property in Ghana, but we all know that there's also legitimate business that occurs in Ghana every day, and it's about finding the right partners and working with, obviously, maybe folks like people here on the panel to purchase property. So for us as a company, we were very esteemed and lucky to and honored to be working with Republic Bank. We just launched a mortgage application platform with them, which you can find. Perhaps I'll share the link to be shared in the comments, right, for those that are interested in reviewing the site. And the site really provides clients in the diaspora, especially, with the convenience of finding approved properties in Ghana. Today, Cecil Global, as I mentioned, works with about 100 real estate developers. But on the platform, you only find developments that have been approved by the bank, right? Fully built and then off-plan units that you can sort of peruse through and find properties that are interesting to you, from $30,000 homes to obviously $1 million homes if you can afford it. But for those that pick the property, of course, people have already been buying with cash and buying with payment plans. But I believe that really with mortgages, this is where I think there's a real advantage to working with a bank to facilitate a mortgage. Of course, a bank will only work with a property that has been approved by themselves. So that gives the client, some comfort in terms of, that this particular property has been vetted by the bank, right? And then as well, it gives you some, cushion in terms of, repayment periods, right? Where you can get 15, sometimes 20-year repayment periods, depending on if it's on the cedi or dollar, right? And now with Republic Bank, and I'm sure the other banks are also competing with interest rates, taking it down to about 11, 12% rates. There's a massive opportunity for those in the diaspora to enter into the market and find a home. And so at our platform, you can find properties. You can also check the mortgage calculator, understand, how much you can afford based on your net salary. And as well, you can even apply for the mortgage through the platform. And our agents and specialists, as Hope mentioned, we can assist you with finding the particular property you like, and also assisting you with filling out those forms that the bank requires, right? And we've built the platform in a way where we even have partners abroad, mortgage specialist partners, licensed mortgage partners who can do credit checks on behalf of the client as well, which I know the banks require to approve a mortgage. So for us, those are the two key themes: the diaspora and technology, and utilizing technology to solve the age-old question of how do I make it much more convenient for and a much more trustworthy manner for a client, especially those in the diaspora who perhaps are not on the ground all the time, to purchase property in Ghana, right? And so that would be my answer.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's great. That's great, and especially looking with the global trends and current trends now, more innovative ways in order to make some of these mortgage services easily available and more transparent is even more necessary than usual. And thank you very much for joining us, Yao Sumpa. I think we missed your introduction, so just to carry on with the first question with you, you can still as well introduce yourself first and then help us with your views on this. So what financial management strategies can home buyers use to effectively complete their mortgage payments?
Right. Thank you, Matwa. I hope you can hear me. You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I can hear you. I can
Right,
hear
great.
you.
Okay, so I thought my introduction did come through. My name is Yao Sumpa. I practice law and I've been in finance for a while. It's interesting listening to the fellow panelists on the conversations, and I like the fact that most of in terms of demand, most of them are pivoting towards the diaspora because of a couple of realities. So I'll backtrack, sort of lay some context and build up. Now, the basis of everything property is situated in property law, right? The idea that some parcel of the earth can be owned by a person, at least in a lifetime for a limited number of years, or so to be have it for eternity, if the law so deem it. It's important to start from there, because then what you begin to realize is that the very idea of ownership, for which one buys into, for which one transfers, or for which anybody partakes in that structure of ownership, is a basis in law. I think just recently, just this week, there was a very interesting Supreme Court decision that got people panicking and people calling, and whether or not their homes are theirs, and what happens to the decision on some lands around Medina or Yarifa and things like that. The point I'm trying to make is that the basis of all of this conversation, whether you finance or otherwise, whether you partake through a transfer or whatever the structure becomes, it is important consumers or providers understand that the baseline for a property market is law. Now, the law creates a market, which we all know are factors of demand and supply. I like to share this. If statistical service tells you that 80%, which is 4 out of 5 of every government employer, government employee, which is about, if you take your snitch, give or take, is about 70 to 75% of the entire, at least formalized sector, earns less than 3,000 Ghana cedis. And an average property in Ghana probably sells average. Maybe minimum you would probably get is $45,000, $50,000 for a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house if you're lucky, right? So the first point I wish to draw attention to is that it appears that the market is structured to price out at least local CDNs in some sense, because the market in itself is being structured in a way that it is priced in a currency that is reserved. And so the price always works against a CDN. Now, I'm trying to answer your question of what strategies consumers or property owners must think of in paying their mortgage, right? Which is your question. If you understand that the premise of the conversation is law, but the market as we find it is almost structured in a way that it makes a city earner almost impossible to finance a mortgage, then the question of how then do I begin to think of how do I own a property? Of course, you can look at the market from a pure urbanized side, which is where the problems are, or you can look at it in terms of the whole landmass of Ghana, about 240, 40 something thousand square kilometers, right? If you look at the urbanized areas, and you look at the registrable districts, as we call them, if you take those out, you know that a vast part of Ghana is still without title, what we call formalized title. And so most of those lands are still in stools, in families, where in order to get a land, sometimes I tell people it may be ridiculous, but you probably can get a land with 4 bottles of schnapps in some parts of Ghana, right? And so if you ask me, how do you finance your property? Maybe if you can't afford, go back to your village and ask your people, how can you afford some land, right? If even you're in the diaspora, it doesn't stop you from understanding that your family still do have lands in Ghana. And most of us have not organized a land tenure system within our own families. And so we all get caught up in the urban areas, in the urban zones, and struggle as though it's impossible to own lands. But there is still quite a vast land, which I'm sure somebody listening has a family who has an interest in land. And all you probably will have to do as a family member is to go and seek to organize it, right? And so that's on one bit, formalization and organization of traditional ownership structures. When you transition into the urban sphere, where whether real estate companies have already organized or lands are still with chiefs or whatever the structure may be, I tell people the first thing you need to think about is that, you know, be sure that you're buying from the right person, because nobody can pass title they don't have. It's a basic rule of law. So unless you're charity and you have some money you want to throw away, be sure that you're giving money to the right person, right? So probably that's the first strategy to think of before you even make an attempt to finance anything. Be sure that the baseline of the title is in the right person. Now, the question of 15 years baseline, I would tell people, if you do not earn in any other currency, do not price your liabilities in that currency, right? And so if you're a CD earner, do all you can not to have a mortgage in dollars, because the price parity will be against you. Over the last 20 years, the CD is depreciated on the average about 15 to 18% over the last 20 years. It will probably not change. And so if you want to think about, there's a reason why the bankers on this call will be happy to give you a dollar loan and not give you a CD loan, right? There's a very good reason for it. And so if you're a consumer, think of it in terms of a price parity that is in a reserve currency that is likely to be against you. And so do not. If you're a real estate developer on the other side, if you can pass that risk to a consumer who would bear the currency risk, then maybe it makes sense to finance in dollars. But ultimately, one thing I want to say is that all of us have pensions. Some of us have insurance. Unfortunately, the nature of our financial market is turned upside down. It should be long-term stable funds. Then you have equity, and then you have private fund managers, and you have investment bank and commercial bankers at the tail end. But unfortunately, we're tilted backwards, with commercial bankers being the biggest we have in our structure. But we all have long-term stable funds. Your pensions, it's being if you've been working for 15 years, you've contributed to pensions for the last 15 years. Maybe a part of it sits in a defined contribution owned by the state, SNET, and so you have an annuity on pensions. But if you're in a tier 2, tier 3, you still have a stable fund in a pensions. Maybe it's time to have an engagement with your bankers to think about that stable funds you've been contributing as a contributor to your financing options. Ultimately, we need to think of real estate as an asset class. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't make sense. You need to buy a real estate not because the market is driven by the greed or the envy of it, but every purchaser must think of it critically as an asset class and must make that investment option, whether it's for the shelter on your Maslow's hierarchy of needs or its baseline investment. It is an asset class. Everything is for personal consumption on a shelter level. It still takes an expenditure out of your income. It takes an expenditure item off your income statement as a person, and so you don't have to pay rent. So, however you look at it, it is an asset class, and so engage with it a little more carefully. Think of it as any other investment option you would have, and speak with the right partners again. Baseline, your law is at the basis, but sitting on top of it is your investment option, which you must think of carefully. I hope I have provided perspective that makes sense to you.
Okay, that was very wonderful. Thanks very much for sharing that. And be notified about the time that we have left. I would want us to have, I would want us to give our final key takeaways before as we wrap up the session. So I'll go around to pass the mic just to receive the final key takeaways from each one here. Let's start with you, Hope. Any final key takeaways that we need to take home with?
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Bao. Uh, Buying a home is a big decision, and it requires careful consideration and planning. Before you would like to go on the property ladder, talk to a developer so that you know what you really can afford, and ensure that you are financially and emotionally ready to commit to home ownership. Uh, here are some of the 5 takeaways I will speak concerning mortgage financing. First, we need to save larger amount for down payment. It's very, very key. Two, you also need to improve your debt to income ratio. What I mean by debt to income ratio is that you shouldn't choke yourself with more loans before approaching any financial institution for a mortgage. Thirdly, you need to have a good credit score or a good credit report. Fourthly, you also need to have a stable and verifiable income. And finally, if I should to run up, the property you want to buy, make sure it is in good condition. Thank you. Hello, Miss Wow.
Wow, thank you very much.
Okay.
These key takeaways have been very, very super. First, save a larger down payment, improve your income to debt ratio, have a good credit report or credit standing, have a stable financial income, and make sure your property is in good standing. That's super. Can we hear from you also, Abdulrazak? So, Abdulrazak, can you unmute and can you give us your key takeaways?
Thank you very much, Ms. Bao. Just to say that there are some few things to consider in taking a mortgage facility. And first and foremost, I would say before you even take the mortgage facility, you should ensure that the property that you are going in for that mortgage facility should be found in a very good location. Because don't forget, it is that property, based on that property, that you are going to take the mortgage. And so if the property is not located in an area that is marketable or viable for you, you might end up having challenges with the property and therefore affect your mortgage repayment. So I would say location is important in the property that you intend to purchase, and also title to the property. As enumerated earlier by our lawyer and colleague here, that it is important that you have a good title to the property that you intend to purchase. If you are entering into real estate investment, make sure that wherever you are getting the title from, you are aware of the title owner, you are aware of the owner of the property, you are also aware of the unexpired lease term. Because sometimes people rush into buying property and the unexpired lease term is just 10, 15 years, but they don't understand and they don't know. So it's important you also get to know the unexpired lease term. And one thing to that I would say is that affordability. Ensure that to go in for any mortgage facility, make sure that you have gotten a financial advisor to advise you on the amount you can qualify for, so that it will then and make sure that amount should be something that is within your budget and is also comfortable to the family, and thereby allowing you to be able to pay the mortgage facility. Affordability, we are also looking at you not taking a cross currency mortgage, and basically take a mortgage in your income of earning, which is better. If you earn CD, you take mortgages in CD. If you earn dollar, you take mortgages in dollar. So for instance, in Fidelity, we offer both the CD mortgage and the dollar mortgage, and we don't do a cross currency and mortgage facility. And we are currently also offering what we call a fixed mortgage. You have a fixed mortgage facility, you have a variable mortgage facility, and we've also come up with what we call a hybrid rate mortgage facility. So that one too is something that will help you if you have an economy where the economy is having challenges. Hybrid is better, where you can have a fixed term for a certain period and then variable over another period. So that's a whole stock. If you are taking mortgage, it's important you look at that. Then finally, let me touch on, I'll say, the total cost of the mortgage transaction. It's important that you don't only look at the interest rate, whether it is fixed or variable, or the headline rate that is being given on the facility, but also look at the other costs involved in taking the mortgage facility, such as the processing fees, such as the legal fees, such as the other fees surrounding it. So that basically what we call the APR, or the annual percentage rate of the loan that you are taking. That is the total cost of the mortgage facility. So don't only look at the headline rate, but look at the other fees, so that it will help you understand whether the facility that you are taking is an expensive facility or a less expensive facility. The total cost will help you. You can have an interest rate that is lower, but the APR on the mortgage facility could be higher, telling you that it is a higher facility that you are taking. And so these are some of the few things that you need to consider. And we have a very wonderful rate that we are running. So you can also visit Fidelity Bank, and then we will engage you and help you in taking any of our variable, fixed, or hybrid interest rate mortgages. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Thank you very much for sharing these key takeaways. Some of the lessons that I could draw from these key messages. Make sure that the location can be found in. Make sure that the property can be found in a very good location. Title of the property is very, very genuine. Should be very, very genuine. Affordability is also key. Should be very, very key. Make sure it's within your budget, and take mortgage in your currency, no cross currency. And finally, total cost of the mortgage transaction should also be noted. That was very, very super. That was very wonderful. Let's take the next from you. Quick ACN. Let's go.
Again, thank you very much for having me at GSC and Ntim Group. I've really enjoyed the conversation we've had here, and the feedback from the panelists here. My key takeaway is really is trust and transparency, and I think that is really what will take Ghana's real estate sector to the stars, to the moon, right? Ghana's demand for Ghanaian real estate is at an all-time high. I don't think I don't think it's ever been this high, right? And we can see even today with a lot of the folks that are coming in from the wider diaspora, not just Ghanaians, but of course a lot of African Americans, but Black people from everywhere, but even other foreigners as well. There's a big spotlight on Ghana today as a massive tourist destination, right? And a lot of people that come to Ghana end up wanting to stay here and end up wanting to live here. And I've seen it obviously for myself, right? And I think what will allow us to, really stabilize, the industry, but also really accelerate it to the highest level is trust and transparency. And so very happy to be here with panelists here that, all imbue those virtues, right, of trust and transparency. And really for those that are looking to purchase property here, I think the people on the panel here are great examples of people that you can work with to get to that level. Of course, Cecil Global is here to advise and assist any clients all over the world who are interested in Ghanaian real estate. And as I mentioned, we work with numerous real estate developers, banks, and lawyers. And I'm sure I'll engage with all the folks here on the panel as well to perhaps work with all of you here more, as I believe that that's really what's important, to get all the stakeholders who are doing legitimate business on the same platform in the same room to assist the client. So it's all very seamless, convenient for them, and very straightforward for them when looking to make a purchase. So again, thank you very much, and cheers.
Wow, thank you very much. Also, trust and transparency. That was also very, very wonderful. Looking at how capital is being moved within real estate. Trust and transparency is very, very key. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Finally, let's also hear from you, Yao Sompa.
All right, it's an honor to have the last words. The first thing I would say is I don't work for anybody, not in the sense of working 8 to 5, but don't be babu the work, monkey the chop. It's very easy to be that in the market here. You can throw your money away very simply. And I keep saying that, and people sometimes think it's overboard. But from where I sit, you can throw your money away very, very easily. And so expend on due diligence rather than the cost of the transaction. And so spend money to do due diligence. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is that once you're sure of the property you want to buy and you've expended on due diligence in a way that you're sure, make it a money decision. It's actually a purchase of an investment asset class, whether for personal use or otherwise. So think of it clearly in terms of your money decisions. Why do you want to buy the property? Maybe it's nice, but maybe if you do the numbers, it would mean that for the next 20 years of your life, your income will probably never buy any asset class rather than that property. If that's your choice and that makes sense for your money, absolutely. But make that decision carefully as a money decision, as an investment decision, having borne in mind that you've done your due diligence rather than working for somebody who you would give your hard-earned money to chop. And finally, I think that we need to be able to push the frontiers of the market. I know, and I would use this company because I know for a fact. I know Metropolitan Pensions is in partnership with some bankers to use your pensions to finance a mortgage. I think it's extremely innovative, and so you probably want to talk with your pensions provider in a way that you can benefit from your own long-term stable funds to upfront some of your properties. But again, so that would be my third one. And finally, we also need to think of REIT, real estate investment trust, where people can participate in the income, and which is creating markets for the real assets underlying them. These are conversations we need to have actively as market participants. How can we create markets where people who can't even afford the property can participate in the income pool and maybe become a part of the ownership structure? And so I know some fund providers that are working on REIT earnestly. We're happy to talk with anybody who is happy to engage on all the conversations we've had so far. But thank you so much for the opportunity to the organizing team. Don't work for anybody. Don't let anybody chop your money. Think of it in terms of money decisions, and use your own long-term stable funds and participate in the market if even you can afford through REIT. I guess these will be my summing up words. I thank you for the opportunity.
Wow. Thank you very much for sharing this key insight with us too. Um, Making a money decision. I think this resonated very, so much with me. And thank you very much for sharing that. And to close this exciting panel out, I would want to say a very huge thank you to each and everyone here. We called out and you answered, and your insights have been super. And I'm sure our attendees that we have today have taken home so much knowledge from you all. We really appreciate that, and thank you very much for joining us today. Hope to reconnect with you in our future events. Thank you very much. Bye bye. All right, so that was the first panel for today. Next is the second panel. That will be headed by Edward Aqua. Edward Aqua is the that will be headed by Edward Aqua, who is Edward Aqua is the property the manager for Eddie Aqua Properties. Thank you very much, and I would hand over to you next. Okay. As said, the next panel session we are having is the global perspectives on the future of real estate careers. We have Eddie Aqua now. Happy to pass it over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Ms. Bawu, can you see me?
Yes, can see you, and okay, we can hear you, but you are not yet on video.
You can't see me? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Just a second.
Okay. All right. So as we sort out our mic and video issues, um, thank you very much for joining us today. We are all set and ready to kick off. Now, joining us today, we have Engineer Joshua Amegashi Viglo. We have Engineer Joshua Amegashi Viglo, who is with Silver Star Towers, as the estate manager. We also have Natasha Osei Entry, founder and CEO of Aquia Properties. We have Antoinette Boamajan, legal practitioner at Ajavon Amatri Law Firm. And finally, Regina Christian Kumsin, the Chief Executive Officer at Lady R Real Estate Services. I'll pass over to you so that we can get to hear from you. Kindly give us a short background, introduce yourself, and tell us how it brought you to where you are today. Let's start with you, Regina.
Hello, can you hear me? Loud and clear?
Yes, loud and clear.
That's good. That's good. It's exciting to be on. I thank you all, GSE. Am I right? And the Ntim Group, my fellow panelists. It's going to be a wonderful discussion. So, as you rightly said, my name is Regina Christian Kumsen, and I'm the CEO of Lady R Real Estate Services Limited. We are a group that manages a whole vast array of properties in Accra here. We also do, of course, rentals and sales of properties. My background is more than a decade in this industry. I love what I do, of course, and I'm looking to passionately wipe away the Ghanaian cliche of saying that we don't have a maintenance culture. It has to be erased from our vocabulary. So that's my mission, and that's what we're passionately doing now as we manage 200 plus properties in Accra. So that's what I'll say for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hear from you, Natasha. Okay, you are muted. Can you unmute and share with us? Yeah, you are still muted. So there's the mute button at the bottom of your screen. That's before the camera. You can just click. We still can't hear you.
I'm off
Perfect.
mute.
Perfect.
Can you hear me
We
now?
can hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Good job. So, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you guys so much for having me on this panel today. I'm extremely excited. I will have to be transparent. I'm actually doing two panels at the same time, so please forgive me. I just want to say thank you to the host of this program today. We just wrapped up a meeting a little while ago, so I just hopped right on another call. Lady R, you are my girl, so we do business together, and I'm just extremely excited to be here and to share the information that I know, my expertise and knowledge in the real estate industry. My name is Natasha Osei Antry. I am married to a Ghanaian Ashanti man, and we did form Aquia Properties Ghana. It's a full-service luxury real estate company that does everything from rental, sales, property management, mentorship programs, and we started real estate investment tours. So I'm extremely excited again, and I look forward to this panel.
Okay, wonderful. Next, let's hear from you, Engineer Viglo. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us what you do and how it brought you to where you are today.
Okay, I'm having a tough time setting my camera. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can see it switching. But I hope we have a fruitful discussion today. Nice.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Engineer Viglo. I'm actually a trained civil engineer. I've been in the building industry for longer than I can remember, but specifically real estate for the past 5 years. And I like the fact that we are doing this, the global ecosystem and Ntim Group, and we are starting conversations on the future of real estate because yes, senior officers and bigger CEOs have spoken about this. But usually they look at the broader pictures and how to sell 1,000 houses in a year and the like. But I believe we can bring it down to selling 100, selling 10, and meeting each person's needs. And yes, I believe I see it just as I look at it, just as I see it. And real estate is an interesting industry. We have two people in this industry where we have the people who want financial security, trying to acquire an asset down so that when literally they grow, they have something saved for their children and the likes. And then we also have the people who have grown to find out that the industry is lucrative and are trying to get some revenue. These are the two people that we find in the industry, and that's where the tension is, because some are trying to pay as least as they can, and others are trying to make as much money as they can. And unfortunately, the developer is not any of these two. The developer is just in between facilitating this, unless he has a financial interest. So I hope that by the end of this conversation, we can see where we need to have a little bit of compromise and help each other network some more and bring some more value to the country as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, wonderful. Now it's a pleasure to introduce Edward Aqua, the CEO of the Aqua Properties, who would be channeling this conversation from this point onwards. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure having you on. Over to you, Edward.
Thank you, Ms. Bao. Very much appreciated. Thank you to everyone who has joined us, and thank you to my wonderful panelists. Yep, I'm just a professional in the real estate industry, 7 years of doing property sales, long lets and short lets on both commercial and residential properties, as well as property management and a little bit of construction. So real estate means the world to me. Property is life, and this is what we do every day, assisting clients to be able to, buy or rent properties. So let's move on to Natasha. It's good to have you on. We've had quite a number of conversations in the last few weeks in relation to real estate, and of course, even the topic at hand, the future. So, Natasha, I'm pretty much sure you share the same sentiment of the importance of mentorship and networking, and when it comes to shaping professionals to be able to do this business, not just in the short to medium term, but also in the long term. So, can you highlight what the role these two things play to be able to make sure that people can really do real estate as a profession and be able to not just make money from it, but also impact lives locally and globally?
Yes, yes, that is a very great question, Eddie. Yes, we have had long conversations. We've been seeing each other more than I ever seen you in my entire life since I've been in Ghana. Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear, please go ahead.
Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. So the question was, is how can we give examples in regards to mentorship?
Yep, and networking. The role,
Networking.
the importance of that, yeah.
I feel like mentorship and networking kind of go hand in hand. As a real estate professional, before you even step out into the world to try to do real estate, you really have to take yourself seriously, right? If you don't take yourself seriously, you're going to end up doing bad practices. I think that if someone is interested in getting to the real estate market, they need to, if they're not knowledgeable already, that they need to partner with someone that has a good track record and that operates with integrity, right? And then from there, they're going to be able to be mentored. I know being African American doing business in Ghana, I realize how networking and collaborating is not highlighted more in Ghana. And so here I come to Ghana with this skill set of networking and collaboration, and everyone's looking at me like I'm crazy, right? But I will tell you, in these last couple of days, I have been seeing it, and it's a good change, right? When it comes to networking, you need to be prepared to be able to have your 1-minute elevator speak. So when someone comes up to you and they ask you, who you are, you begin telling them who you are, but within who you are, also what you do and how you can provide a service to them. I think that what it really boils down to is a real estate professional having the confidence, the knowledge, and education to be able to network with people and also go out and look for mentorship. So there you go. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. You couldn't have said it any better. And I've been meeting Natasha a lot at networking events for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And trust me when I say this, your network is truly your network. So let's move on to Regina. Thank you for having, it's a joy having you on because you come from, a depth of property management experience. And I'm pretty much sure that from where you sit, you've seen a lot of challenges with our industry when it comes to people, managing their properties. Because everybody tells you, I'm looking for property to buy for investment. But hey, how does that investment yield any results or any returns when it's not properly managed? So can you touch on some very key considerations that are important for a successful real estate investment from the management point?
Thank you, Eddie. And yes, your network is really your net worth. So that's why I said from the onset that it's exciting to be on such a panel with you, Natasha, and engineer as well, and everyone in the entire summit. It's great. It's a great thing. So to answer your question, of course, without proper management of your investment, that investment is going to go down the drain. How do you get a good investment? That was the question from the onset, Eddie.
Yeah.
How did you
Key
structure the
consideration.
question?
Yeah.
Great. So of course, let's start from the top. You're going to do research, ensure that you know what kind of property you want to buy, what locations are going to give you the required investment return that you're looking to achieve. So your return on investment, what are requirements that are going to give you this return on investment? And then after all this is done, said and done, you've purchased the property, you've gotten your documentation, you've gotten professional help to ensure that this property is going to yield the returns. That is where you realize the return on this investment that you've made. Adequately managing the property to attract tenants. If it's an investment property, obviously you're looking to rent it out to people. How are you going to rent it out to people? People come in, prospective tenants come in, and they see the place is not cleaned properly. Why should they take it up? Or they stay in there for one night and they hear some noise, some banging somewhere, or the air condition is not working properly. They're trying to get help and no one is attending to them. All these issues would impede your return on investment. So to get a successful return on investment, management, after going through all the research, after getting the right property, the right location within your budget, going through all the documentation processes, management is key.
Wonderful. You couldn't have said it any better. Thank you so much, Regina. So let me come back to Engineer Joshua. So now let's talk about two key words when it comes to real estate. Everybody talks about affordability or affordable property. And now more often than not, there's so much conversation on sustainability because it's a global topic that everybody has a part to play when it comes to making sure that projects are sustainable. So from where you sit, I would like you to educate us on what role or what extent do you think real estate projects, current real estate projects and future real estate projects should involve and benefit local communities and tie this to the word affordability and sustainability.
Fantastic. Was that for me?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So, yes, I've had some bit of experience trying to build affordable real estate properties, and it's true that the world is moving from affordability to sustainability, which is true in it back. So, we need to work together. But the challenge, I was listening to the earlier presentation about affordability of real estate, which has become like very, very impossible looking at the financial conditions in Ghana currently. So it's very complicated to talk about. But what I'll say about affordability right now is that where I work, Lakeside Estate, Silver Star Tower, we realized that it wasn't exactly the real estate developers that make houses expensive. It's the taste of the buyers. So people begin to desire very, very complicated facets and finishing of houses. They choose very, very non-tropical designs. They choose some very European or foreign designs that are very, very expensive to do because we are practically importing a lot of things to meet their needs. So in the end, it's going to cost more. I always argue that a house in Ghana is literally costing 2 times the same house in the US because everything is imported from the US. So there's freight, and then there is taxes, and then we now build it in Ghana. The only thing that is cheaper in Ghana is the land and the labor, which we would have loved to even increase the earning potential of our people. And then the land is obviously expensive when it's at a cantonment where everybody would have loved to have a house. So affordability, maybe because I work with a developer, I'm biased towards the developers. I believe if people can begin to calm down and choose very, very economical products. Okay, I see a lot of people who try to build a 4 bedroom house as their first house. I tell them your first house cannot be a 4 bedroom house. You should start with a studio or a chamber and hall or a 2 bedroom. Then your second or third house, you can now buy whatever you want. Okay, so it's an issue we need to look at. But assuming that affordability issue were solved, then we can now talk about sustainability. So for Ghana, sustainability is a future issue because we are even struggling with affordability. But if we want to jump the gun, why not? Sustainability is making sure that we are not destroying the environment whilst trying to get what we want, because the other side of it is that yes, the things we want in our houses right now are things that are contributing to global warming and all these environmental degradation issues that we are having. The other way is also that we should begin to build in a way that is very, very conservative, which again, the people don't come to appreciate that. For example, preference for Ghana. In Ghana, you realize that the high-rise apartments will be so you have high-rise apartments in a very short while, and then very sold for very high prices, and are always occupied by people moving in and out. But when you build a low-rise apartment, a high-rise apartment for the affordable sector, they don't buy it. They want a villa. Okay, they want when they describe the kind of house they want for you realize that it's a $1 million house, which sometimes even the developer cannot afford. If you go to other countries, what I've seen, especially East Africa, you realize that there are low-end high-rise buildings. So you can see an apartment selling for $20,000, $30,000, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, sometimes studios, and the people are renting it and they are willing to pay on monthly basis. So they pay rent monthly, the month ends they pay. Then in Ghana, you rent for 6 months, you rent for even a year, the rent is due, and the person tells you stories. And I'm like, this is a 2 bedroom house. It's expensive. You are not able to afford it. You are staying in Italy. Why not move into the studio? He said the studio is not good for your social status. And I'm trying to explain to them that you are not even able to afford your social status. Why not tone down a little so that you can save more money? And then upon saving money, you can now own it for yourself. And you can own another one. Then you can now earn rental revenue. Then you can now build your villa in 5 to 10 years rather than running yourself down into debt. Okay. So sustainability, I hope the clients are not watching this video. Sustainability is an issue more for clients than developers. If clients begin to think sustainably and design sustainable homes, developers will be happy to build it for us. Okay. And there's the last guilty party in this, which is the government, which we can't exactly help. But if they can put in some more policies to facilitate sustainable development, land banking, mortgage provision, better macroeconomic systems, it will work really well for the country. But right now, I think the biggest uh, tension is in the hands of the client. If we can educate them to open up to pace themselves, we can really do a lot as a country. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, Engineer Joshua. You touched on so many important points, and I like the fact that you spoke about social status. I think it's a national problem, so I definitely agree with you. Very valid points. Thanks for your contribution. Now, let me move on to Natasha. Now, real estate is evolving. The profession has undergone so many adjustments over the years. And now when you look at the future with technology coming into property, business and prop tech, changing the world, it begins to let everybody appreciate the fact that if you don't adjust, you will be left behind. So what strategies do you think that real estate professionals should incorporate today to be able to stay resilient for the future of real estate?
Thank you, Eddie. That question was for me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I would say for Ghana and Ghana's position as it is into real estate, the first thing that I feel like Ghanaians need to do to stay being real estate professionals in the industry is stick to the basics. When it comes to technology, yes, there's software platforms that can help you, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the basics just kind of goes back to my networking and my collaboration stance. I'm telling everyone in 2024, I'm all about collaboration, right? I feel like that is the biggest tool that we can use nowadays with the state of where real estate is in Ghana, right? And the reason being is because there isn't a lot of systems in place to mandate people to be more strenuous when it comes to the real estate industry. So collaborating with other individuals that operate the same level as you with integrity is key. The second thing is, if you want to take it a step further to attract a different audience, is getting on the World Wide Web and going to Google and figure out what CRMs other real estate professionals around the world are utilizing to be able to hold a database and track who are actually servicing in the industry, right? And so that's a client relationship network. Hold on once. Those are my ideas. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry. I'm multitasking. That's why. I'm so sorry. I apologize for that. So I would say, first of all, is tightening up your communication when it comes to collaboration. And the second thing is having a level up on your industry partners by tapping into some sort of software platform that's on a global stance, so that way you can be able to keep track of your database, right? To where you can be able to post your listings and it reaches masses. I will tell you at Aquia Properties, what we've done is we've integrated an international division, where right now I think I have over 30 international agents who are licensed professionals in the USA. I'm actually onboarding from Bermuda and the Bahamas here pretty soon, in the UK. But with all of our listings that we have, we send it out to our international agents, and that's how we're able to get international buyers, right? And as far as ancillary income, those international agents that you onboard to your agency in Ghana, you can charge them a service fee to being a part of your association and having access to your network and your portfolio. So those are some of the things that I've taken from what I've learned from the West, and I'm applying them in Ghana, and we're pretty successful at it. Thank you.
Wonderful. I like the fact that you're taking, stuff from the global market, applying it locally, and then making sure that it results and gives you some, some sort of, traction for you to be able to close more deals. Wonderful. So let me move on to Regina. So Regina, now real estate agencies face a lot of issues currently, and some of these issues, if we don't find solutions to them, we will not be able to survive the future, because the future is moving faster than we think. So are you able to highlight some of these challenges that agencies face right now, and what do you think solutions could be, practical solutions, so that in future, as real estate evolves, we can also still be employed?
Thanks, Eddie. For sure, there are challenges in this industry. It's a great place to be, to make a lot of money, but I think that the major challenge we have in Ghana is the lack of structure. So lack of structure in terms of our operations, in terms of our fees, in terms of what's the procedure, what's the process when someone steps into Ghana? Do they know that they're going to be taken care of in terms of being able to buy a property by or through a trustworthy process? Are they sure that whatever funds they're paying is going to the right homeowner? Or what are the credentials of even the broker they're working with? So the lack of structure brings about licensing issues. At this point in time, we don't have licensing issues like we don't have licensed brokers or agencies as we should have in the Western world, for example. Natasha and I have been on seminars and we've taught in master classes about some of these things. You know, she has brought on board international best practices, and she's a voice for some of these things, as she said. So that's some of the challenges. I do know that the Real Estate Agency Act has is looking to correct some of these issues that we have. And I know that the Real Estate Agency Council, that's the name, is doing a good job of educating us about what the future holds in this industry in Ghana. And I do know that it's bright, it's going to be good. We ourselves, as those who've been in the industry for quite a long time, like I said, I've been in this industry for over a decade. I have done brokerage. I was once ahead of not only property management but rentals and sales in before I started my own company. So I do know what it takes to meet someone on the street and he will tell you, I'm an agent. I know that this house is for sale. And you know, there are horror stories of people who've come in from outside of Ghana and they've met such people and given them money. And those kind of people have absconded with their funds. You know, we have homeowners who don't have good stories about middlemen taking care of their tenants. You know, so I do hope that this Real Estate Agency Act is coming on board to ensure that some of these problems are looked into. We do have also good associations in Accra here in Ghana. The Rental Housing Association of Ghana is one such association that is looking to bring all real estate professionals together so that we have one voice. We are able to advocate, collaborate, and educate ourselves, you know, to be a united front so that everything is standardized. What forms are you filling? What forms are you using? We recently had a seminar, and I must mention Grepper as well, because they did a good foundational job in terms of bringing real estate professionals together. And recently they had a collaboration with the fraud organization, something like that, about fraud cases and all that. So all these things working together to educate fellow brokers, to educate homeowners, tenants alike, it is for our collective good. So that is what I would say about this. Lack of structure, our challenges, it brings about like licensing issues and all that. But with the Real Estate Agency Act and then the help of ourselves, associations like the Rental Housing Association, we can move forward and ensure that our industry is trustworthy enough. Anyone coming into Ghana would know that, listen, I'm not going to be, I'm a fraudulent broker. I'm not going to be swindled out of my money. I'm getting my money's worth, the procedure, documentation, everything is going to go through the right process. So there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Wonderful. I truly appreciate and agree with you as well. So we're wrapping up now. So in 90 seconds, I'll start with Natasha and then I come to Regina and then Engineer. So in 90 seconds, share your breakthrough deal in real estate and you can fuse it at the end with your closing remarks. So you have 90 seconds. The clock starts now, Natasha.
My breakthrough real estate deal.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like because the position that I play, every deal that has gone under contract is a breakthrough deal for an African American woman doing business in Ghana, because the amount of work that I have to do to overcome objections when it comes to African Americans investing in Ghana is right. So for me, every deal is a breakthrough. I think once I'm given the opportunity to not have to ask answer questions about roads and power. Do you live in trees? Do you see elephants? Then I'll have another level to my success. But right now, everyone that I'm able to get either to come over on a real estate investment tour or even just go under contract is successful to me right now. That is my entry level threshold. What I want to leave today on the floor is that Africa is now, just not Ghana. A lot of people in the Western world are starting to tap into it. I think us as real estate professionals, we need to come with the professionalism if we really want to start doing business, because African Americans are used to a certain standard that other people on the east side of the world is not. And so we come with these technical questions. And I want my Ghanaian brothers and sisters to be able to be as successful as I am. I love the business. Thank you. But at the same time, I would love to share the business as well. But I can only refer on people like Eddie and Lady R because I know what level that they operate in. So if I'm overworked, definitely I'll refer out. So I would just say that in 2024, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let's level up and let's do good business. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it. So, Regina, your final words. But before you do that, you can share your breakthrough deal. I think I have one to share because I think that you do this business for a while and then it finally kicks in. And then you get that confidence that, okay, this thing is worth my time. Because before that, you might be running around a lot and not seeing results, but you believe that there's light at the end of the tunnel. So, Regina, over to you.
Yes, well said, Eddie. So my I don't know, but because my forte has been property management, getting more homeowners interested in maintaining their properties and getting professionals on board like ourselves has been a breakthrough for me. So I'm actually just sitting in my corner and having referrals upon referrals. I mean, 200 plus properties is no joke, and more coming on board. It's not an easy area. It's not an easy career because you're having calls. This is happening here. My leak, my there's a leak here, my generator, my this. But of course, with good maintenance cycles being carried out, we are able to cruise through some of these problems. And so my breakout would be, of course, being very good at what I do, being passionate at what I do. And with that came rentals and sales, so a foot in the door of that. And then you are able to sell your properties that you manage. You're able to rent out the properties that you manage, of course, and get commissions from that as well. Because trust me, property management in itself will not give you money, but it is the totality of what you're doing that will give you the return of what you're putting in. And so my final words to everyone watching will be, again, thank you for the opportunity, to the team, and that let's continue to educate, collaborate, and advocate. As I said, are the three core pillars of the Rental Housing Association of Ghana. I am currently the president of this association, and that's why I'm harping about it. Madame on this panel is the chairperson as well. So we are in this together to just bring about some structure in this industry. Join us and let's push forward. Let's go to government and say, listen, this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is how it should be. Housing deficit, what are we doing about it? Lack of structure, what are we doing about it? And let 2024 be a year of blessings and more money, more breakthroughs for everyone. Let's collaborate. Like Natasha said, there are agents who want to do everything on their own. You can't do that. No man is an island. I may have a property I'm looking to rent. You may have someone who wants to rent or who wants to buy. Talk to me. I'll talk to you. Let's do transparent business and we move forward. There's a saying in Ghana, no kofio, isn't it? So everybody gets a share of the cake or the pie. So I wish God's blessings on everyone, and we'll see you in 2024. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And so I trust that everybody who has joined is inspired. For new and seasoned real estate professionals globally, this one was for you. Thank you to my wonderful panelists, Engineer Joshua. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Regina. And thank you for having me, Adiakwa, as your moderator. Enjoy the rest of the summit. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. Thanks very much for this amazing session. And Diakwa, this was wonderful. The conversation was on point, and I'm sure the speakers were very great as well. And thanks very much. So I hope to reconnect with you another time soon. Bye. Okay. That was a very wonderful session, and I'm sure each and every one of us on the call today are taking much point, and very great to introduce the next panel session. Who will be discussing on the topic trends and opportunities in the property market. To help with this, to help moderate this session, we have Benai Uche Rollins, who is the founder and CEO of Zia Homes. It's really great and a pleasure to have you all join us today. With pleasure, I hand over to you, Benaya. So you are muted. Can you unmute? We can't hear you. Okay, perfect. Okay, Benaya, we can't hear you and your video. Okay,
is it
perfect.
Are we good to go?
Technical difficulties, right? Yes. So,
okay, great. Hi, everyone. Hello, Damswa and Mr. Divine. Hello, good to finally meet you guys. There was supposed to be one more person on the call. Okay, we'll figure that one out later. So let me be sure you can hear me and I'm clearly audible. And,
well, I can hear you.
Okay, okay, thank you. Right, before we go on, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Benaya Rollins Uche. I am the managing director for a real estate company, our real estate company called Z Homes. We're technically real estate agency and brokers helping people and connecting people into buying homes or renting homes in Ghana. And I have a history of doing this business for the past 3.5 years. So I might seem to be a newbie, but I got what it takes to survive. So if you don't mind, Divine, I'm going to start from you. Just tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do, and then we can move on to Danswa.
All right. Thank you very much, Benaya. So as can be gleaned from the flyer, sorry, I'm a lawyer. I'm qualified to practice law in Ghana and in England and Wales. In terms of experience, I've done over 10 years experience in corporate financial advisory, investment banking, private equity fund management, and law practice cumulatively. When it comes to the law practice, my areas of interest and expertise is real estate transactions, real estate litigation, international and domestic arbitration, civil litigation, and the civil litigation spans a number of areas, including even maritime. I also do criminal defense. So this is, the little about me. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. And we'll move over to you, Danswa. I'm sorry, I think you're muted. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Right. Okay. So my name is Danswa. I'm Vice President of Strategy and Operations at CESO Global. For those who've been on from the beginning, there was another panelist from CESO. I'll tell you a bit about CESO. We're basically an online property platform. Our objective is to make real estate transactions seamless. As you all may know, real estate has various different facets. You're dealing with various different stakeholders. Even in your due diligence, there's so many things that you have to do in your property choice. And our platform basically is that one-stop shop to ensure that once you're there, every service that you need outside of identifying the property you're looking for is available to you. But broadly speaking, I've been in the real estate space for a bit now, like over 10 years. I started with real estate valuation. I moved on to mortgage financing. I've been colleagues with quite a few other panel members on this summit. So it's like a homecoming for me, actually. Yes. Mortgage financing, sales and marketing. Obviously, now I do operations and strategy at CESO, and my main interest and focus right now is trends and consumer behavior, obviously, as it impacts the real estate space. So, a pleasure to be here.
Yes, that's very wonderful. And I must say, I enjoy working with Cecil. Your colleague, Kweku, is such a very nice guy. He has actually gotten me leads that, oh my goodness, they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this year as well. So I'm so much glad I've worked with you guys and hope to do more business. So I'm just going to dive right in. Now. Since you're the last to speak, we're just going to start from you.
Okay.
But let me be sure I'm pronouncing your name correct.
Yeah, that's good. Said like a Ghanaian.
The rest of the world,
Xiao. Yeah. I mean, Danswa is fine. Danswa is my first name, so that's okay. We can just do Danswa. Danswa Misa. Yeah, you can. I'm flexible.
Okay. Very good. Thanks for that. So I just want to know what are some of the key trends? You talked about you have 10 years experience in the real estate industry, done mortgage finance, you've done a bit of sales, understanding customer behavior and trends. Would you share with us, 5 minutes, what are some of the trends, what are some of the certain things going on in the real estate market that is shaping the way things are done, the way the whole real estate game is being performed?
Right. I mean, if you want to go back a couple of years, like quite a lot has changed in the last, I think from the early 2000s up until now, if we're going to talk about it in a broader perspective. So, I mean, our real estate market is extremely young. It can't be compared to the real estate markets of the West or other parts of the world that have been alive for centuries in a formalized sense. And so Ghana started off with people mostly, and I think it's still the case, buying land and building. And then came, property developers, again, late 1990s, early 2000s, and mortgage companies that made access to finance possible, which also made it possible for younger people to acquire property. Because back in the day, it's only like people only move into their own homes upon retirement. That's when they're ready to move in. I mean, that's from a more historical sense, if I can even use that word. But if you're talking about the most recent past, the most pivotal thing has been COVID and the impact of COVID on our real estate market. And I think COVID coincided with a lot of things globally, right? A lot of global tensions, global racial tensions, global economic, turbulence, which shifted attention from global powerhouses to developing economies like Ghana. And Ghana has benefited greatly from that shift. We have seen in the last 3 to 4 years, that's prior to COVID, from the year of return, which was 2019, just before COVID hit in 2020 up until now, we've seen an increase in diaspora demand. And diaspora is no longer just limited to the non-resident Ghanaian who finds themselves overseas, but also the Black American, the Black Brit, the Jamaican, wanting to reconnect with their African roots, and Ghana finding itself in the beautiful space where it's often the first place that people want to look at. We're an Anglophone country, we're a relatively safe country as well. And so that has impacted the demand, right? Not only who is demanding, but what is being demanded. And that has also, all within this space, we've seen, our own economic challenges, which saw the depreciation of the cedi about 18 months ago, which in some instances affected local demand. So locals somehow had been pushed out of mortgage financing opportunities just because properties are priced in dollars, most people earn in cedis. But what that has done has also pushed demand to land, right? Whereas once upon a time, a lot more people didn't want to bother with land. Let me just go and buy development. Now the locals are like, okay, this is a bit too much for me. So let me, do it the way I know. Let me buy the land and let me build progressively at my own pace. So land values have also risen in more recent times because there's a higher demand for land, not only by the locals, but also by non-Ghanaian interest into the economy. And what I would probably say as the last thing, this is by no means the last trend, but probably the last one I want to talk about is focus spreading outside of Accra. Okay. Previously, when people are talking about real estate development opportunities, it's always Accra. Everything was happening within, this metropolis. But again, because of the influence from external demand, who don't necessarily have any ties to Accra, based on, like, if you live in America and you live in the countryside, you could well come live in Ghana and live in Suhum, right? Or if you're used to commuting 2 hours a day, it's something that you can do even in another jurisdiction. And some people actually like that kind of lifestyle. And so you realize that a lot of attention is being brought out of the capital. And so areas that have immediately benefited from that are areas like Ebri. There's a high demand for Ebri land because it's scenic. There are more trees, and it's that whole eastern corridor. It's not even just Ebri, and it flows out into areas like Kumasi, other regions as well. So generally speaking, this is what's happening. Demand has changed, which is changing the type of supply that should be made available. And I've just also given a few of the pricing dynamics and how it's impacted the economy generally.
Thank you very much. I know in some of the trends you just mentioned, I was actually looking for something, technology. So I know Cecil has built an amazing platform. I mean, your platform is really good. And your collaborations and how you build partnerships, and not just in one jurisdiction, one country, Nigeria, Ghana, the UK, the US, and you have a platform that connects all of these properties with all of these homeowners and how you manage them. So how do you see tech being involved, or how is tech being part of the key trend shaping the real estate market today?
Yeah, I think tech is critical to everything now, just because of the optimization and the efficiency tech can bring you. I mean, what a social media post can do is so much more than what an individual can do in the same time frame. And so, like you said, on our platform, we see our platform as a hub, a connector, all in an attempt to make property acquisition, property transactions a whole lot easier. Right. And so once upon a time, if you were going to buy a property, you would probably have to literally go to various different locations to see the properties, compare them. But now you can do everything behind your screen at home. Obviously, go and visit the properties, but there's an element exactly. But there is an element of due diligence that you're able to do. Something like a mortgage, which is a new feature on our platform, which is assessing your own validity for a mortgage. Rather than having to walk into various different institutions, you can sit down, put in your income, and see how much it is you qualify for, which sets you on the right path to even look for the property that's best for you. And so tech is a real enabler. I mean, look at Airbnb. Look at what Airbnb does. It connects people globally. And that is what we have aimed to do with CESO, to connect the global, market to what opportunities are available in Ghana, and then also show you the steps along the way.
Thank you very much. And speaking about technology, because I asked this question with great intention, I will move to you, Mr. Divine. So in the era of tech-driven real estate, what ethical considerations should professionals keep in mind to ensure fair and transparent practices? What consideration should professionals like myself, Danswa, and even yourself keep in mind ensure that we do real estate and conduct real estate in the most fair and transparent environment? How can we get that done?
Okay, thank you, Benaya. So I think that the starting point for every professional engaged in real estate is the code of conduct that guides the professional body that you belong to. As lawyers, we have code of conduct that guides us. I'm sure as real estate developers, you also have real estate agents have that. Accountants working within the system also have that. You also have quantity surveyors who have something of the sort. So that's the first point of reference. But in all of this, there is an overarching aim. And I'm going to actually borrow four of the principles from the 7 principles that guide solicitors of England and Wales. Is drafted by the Solicitors Regulatory Authority. There are 7 guiding principles for code of conduct. And I believe that 3 of them apply across board to all professionals. And those 3, one, you are supposed to act independently. So as a professional, you have some level of training. If you are a lawyer or a quantity surveyor within the space, you have some level of training, and it's that training that you have to use in the conduct of your professional duties, rather than depending on people that have stake in the system, but then do not necessarily have the same training that you have. So it's important to act independently. The second and also very important one is to act with honesty. This real estate, there are so many issues that have come up in terms of real estate in Africa. Because I sometimes do criminal defense, I see that a lot. Because I also do real estate litigation, I also see that a lot. You have someone acquire property from person A, or sell property to person A, and then sell the same property to person B, and so on and so forth. That obviously is someone who is not acting with integrity. So if you are, for instance, a real estate agent within this mix, and you close your eyes because of your percentage or whatever they are going to get, you're not acting with honesty. And I can see you're laughing. This is something that occurs. It's as though I'm targeting a particular group, but that's not the case.
I understand. Don't worry. Move on.
Yes. Then you also need to act with integrity. The third one is integrity. As professionals, all we have is our name, and you should guard it jealously. If you don't have integrity, it's as though because of a few, cedis or dollars or pounds that you are going to get from one transaction, you quote and in quote spoil your name, and then it follows you throughout your professional career. Because as professionals, you want to be doing this in 10 years, 20 years, whatever. Even if you are not actively involved, you want to be a consultant or something. But if you tarnish your image because of a few, cedis or whatever that are going to get, then eventually you are, destroying your own career. So I think those 3 out of the 7, there are so many others, but I don't want to bore them. The rest typically apply to us lawyers, and I don't want to bore you with too many.
We'll be really interested to hear that last part. I see all the things you've said actually goes both ways, both offline and online. Now, I would like to ask you, how do you think that keeping an act of independency, an act of honesty, an act of integrity, how do we think we can transfer these principles from offline to online? Because in recent times, there are people who are really good people. The practice or the precepts is just applying honesty, integrity, people of high moral values. But they are not so. This is a tech-driven decade. This is everybody. This is in the 21st century. Almost everything we do is done through tech. Now, how can we transfer these qualities online from offline? Not totally abandon who we are offline, but how can we join the two? Who we are offline, how can we transfer these qualities so that people is with professionals? Like you said, in the next 10 years, I still want to do real estate. In the next 20 years, I still want to do real estate. And this is going to be like a generational thing on and on and on. Therefore, I want whoever, wherever, whichever part of the world you're on, to know that this is the type of business and this is who I am, not just because I do real estate, but naturally, this is who I am. So how can we transfer those qualities online?
Yeah, so thank you very much for your question. I think that this builds up even quite organically, because when you were even talking, you said that, oh, you know, so Cecil Global, they've done A, B, and C. How did that happen? So someone like you will go online and give Cecil Global, for instance, a good rating. You recommend Cecil Global to someone else. So then that platform, the technology platform, then becomes a vehicle by which we know which people can be trusted in the market. And so once you know which people can be trusted in the market, you go to them. I don't want to mention names, but you go to them right from the word go. You know, you go to, so the platform, the technology platform can actually help to fine-tune the system to create some sanctity within the system. Because if, for instance, you go and buy property from a real estate agent through a real estate agent B, and it doesn't go well because of the era in which we live, you go online and say it. So once you do that, that person is damaging his or her career. So far as I'm concerned, the platform that we have technologically can actually help to fine-tune the space and make us know which people are the right professionals to be dealing with along them.
Okay, thank you very much. This is so much an insightful discussion, but I really wanted to ask. I know it's one thing showing that this is who I am online, but how can I remain consistent? Now, to Social Global, who they were, and all the principles and all the values they've maintained. Sorry, how long has Social Global been? That's what. I think you muted yourself. Sorry, say that again.
Since 2020.
Good, 2020, and this is post-COVID when everything was, the whole world was
In the
crashing.
heat
Yeah?
of COVID, yeah.
Yeah, okay, between ongoing and post-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, how you started is not how you are today. Now, I think this question goes to both of you. I'll ask you this because we're using Cecil Global as a case scenario. How have you maintained or stayed consistent with who you are? And like Mr. Divine said, this is something that builds organically. So for the past close to 4 years, you have maintained who you are and you've built a brand that everybody knows and trusts, and not just in one country, UK, Nigeria, both in the West, in Africa and abroad. So how have you been able to achieve this consistency? Because let's start with you.
Right. I think like anything, like when you set out to achieve a goal, so Cecil Global is Africa's trusted property marketplace. So one of the key components of everything we do is trust, right? Property transactions, or any transaction revolves around people trusting you. So in everything that we do, we want to exude that trust. That's why we want to make everything transparent on the platform. This is what it takes to get a mortgage. This is what you need when you want land. This is these are the trends this is what we are observing. Or even in a one-on-one client interaction, this is what you said you want, but based on everything you've told us, this is exactly what you need. And in doing that, putting the policies in place and always looking at how we can scale that up through technology, because again, like I said, there's only so much an individual can do. So our objective remains the same. How we achieve that objective may vary depending on the circumstances that we're facing, but we are guided by our company values, which is a trusted property marketplace.
Impressive. Thank you very much for that. And I hope to carry on this conversation right after we leave you. So we're so much short of time that we cannot cover everything and all the questions I have. But I guess we will some other time. But I'd like to know your last remarks. I'll start from Mr. Divine. What would you say? Now, you're a lawyer, and I want your remark to touch this angle, the angle of property rights. I want your remark to touch the angle of acquiring properties and the legal structure that kind of like oversees the whole transaction process of performing real estate in Ghana. Just tell us what are your lacks, give us your remarks on these things I've talked about.
All right, so thank you. So first of all, in Ghana, for instance, the 1992 Constitution has actually raised the level of the right to acquire property to that of your right to life. So it's a constitutional right. Of course, there are certain exceptions within law where that property that you have acquired can be taken from you. So it is extremely important as a stakeholder in real estate, either as a property owner, either as a transaction advisor, either as a developer, or even a landlord or a tenant, to always ensure that you are up to date with the laws that regulate whatever you are doing. If you are going to engage in any transaction, be it selling, be it buying, whatever, you have to ensure that you have the right professional by you. I mean, until recently, which is 2020, when we had the Land Act, if you were going to acquire a property from a married man like Benaya, and you actually didn't need the consent.
I'm not married. I'm not married. I'm single.
You actually need the consent of his wife now, but prior to the Land Act, you didn't need the consent. So if you are acquiring property after the act and you didn't know about this law, you would probably have acquired property. Then so many years down the line, you may lose that same property because that transaction is voidable. So that is why as part of my remarks, I want to encourage all stakeholders within the space to always ensure that whenever they are engaging in whatever transaction relating to property, they should make sure that the professionals are there, the lawyers are there, the real estate agents are there. You also have the quantities of it, so that you save yourself a lot of stress. Because I do both transactional advisory and real estate litigation, I see this. And some of them, the person comes to you like, this thing could have been avoided. But anyway, we are in court, that kind of thing. So we always have to engage the right people. We always have to be abreast with the issues that pertain to real estate when we are acquiring property. And then again, regarding as professionals, let's also, like I said earlier on, let's also maintain integrity. Let's work honestly. And more importantly, let's also work independently so that at least we safeguard the real estate ecosystem that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we move to you, then. So, what are your last remarks? And I want your remark to touch on professionals like myself and yourself, and your regular customer, those who buy homes through the platform, mortgage through your platform. What are your remarks on these habits of purchasing, and like what he says, as professionals, our values, and what we should portray out there. So I want your remark to touch on these both things.
Right. Okay. So I think, first of all, as a professional, integrity and professionalism is key. You have to be, I mean, even if you're not that knowledgeable, but you're trustworthy, it's better than being knowledgeable and untrustworthy. So I think the best thing to work on is integrity. It's not always easy, the easiest thing to be upfront with people, but it will save you a lot of heartache and grief in the long term. So integrity, being trustworthy. As a professional, the word speaks for itself. You have to know your stuff. It isn't enough to call yourself this or that. We're in a generation that loves titles and accolades, but it's important to know your stuff. Invest time in research, invest time in understanding what is going on. The beautiful thing about tech is that it's made information available to everybody, right? And as a professional, there are certain things that you are no longer required to do. So your skill level has to be heightened. It has to be a lot more cerebral, something that a machine cannot do. So now you have chatbots. So if you're going to stay at that level of just being, interacting with customers. There's AI that can do that now. So it's very, very important to understand where the tech is going and then marry your growth along that line and focusing on what the tech cannot do, which is a lot, right? The robots are not coming for our business. There's so much. There's so much to do. Network and collaborate. Real estate is not one monolith. There are so many different facets of real estate. Somebody specializes in one field, another person specializes in another. But the beautiful thing about every industry is that there's something to be learned from every single person. So networking and collaboration, again, it improves your bandwidth of knowledge, right? And when you're presented with to your clients, you can demonstrate to them that you actually know what it is that you're talking about. And we don't compete amongst ourselves, but the point is, why would someone choose you and not another person, right? It's just because of that particular skill set that you exude, which everybody has, right? So everybody should shine in the area that they have been talented or feel that they are talented in. And I think that if that's the case, you'll do well. And embrace technology. Technology makes us a lot more efficient, right? Technology also removes to some extent the human bias that we sometimes prone to. So embrace technology. PropTech is a very young field in our parts of the world. And if you're a professional in the space, you can even guide the way the PropTech industry grows just based on your domain knowledge and explore different facets of real estate. I mean, the opportunities are boundless. They're even so much more than what we normally talk about, brokerage, rent. There's so much more. So explore, be professional, integrity and trustworthiness above all, and knowledge.
Thank you very much. What a beautiful way to end it. All right, everyone. It's such a very good honor to finally talk to you, Mr. Divine. I'm really, really looking forward to have you on this conversation. And Swat, thank you. All right, I think this is we're wrapping this up, and I will hand over to Ms. Bao.
Okay, thank you very much, Benaya, for facilitating this wonderful discussion. I mean, the discussion has been on point. Just key takeaways were just hitting in and out. We really, really appreciate that for sharing with us the wealth of knowledge. Thank you very much to all our panelists. This has been very, very amazing. You always come true for us, and we really, really appreciate that. Hope to reconnect with you in our future events. Thanks very much, Benaya, Divine. That's why. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you too.
Okay, now we wonderful. We then transition to our next speaker. I'll hand over to Christine Ntim, the CEO of the Global Startup Ecosystem, to give some remarks. Thanks very much. Over to you, Christine.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bao. And of course, on this Friday, right before we kick off Christmas, I'm sure the energy is high. So I'm so excited that all of you took the time out to be on this Real Estate Future Summit session, to engage with all our speakers and thought leaders for the day. And I'm so excited to be able to contribute to this conversation with some brief remarks about an introduction to real estate wealth planning in Ghana. Because for the past couple of months, we have been, really contributing to real estate education within here in Ghana, but also across our different markets where we're situated at GSC. So by introduction, my name is Christine Ntim. I'm the founder and CEO of the Global Startup Ecosystem. I'm a serial entrepreneur in the tech and entrepreneurship space. I'm a mother and a wife, and I have 4 beautiful kids. And over the past couple of years, I have spoken at dozens of different conferences about tech and innovation. And I started my career actually in banking back in 2011, quit that banking job, did phenomenally well in that career, but wanted a new change of heart. I love traveling. I love emerging markets, and moved to Dubai to kick off my career in the tech and startup space. Launched my first company in 2014, went viral within 2 years, made the Forbes list. And funny enough, as you're building companies, which is why I'm such a huge supporter of entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs disrupting unique spaces around the world, I was able to kick off my speaking career and started speaking at different different programs and conferences and events, was featured in a lot of different media outlets for my work, and of course started to meet the right people and network with celebrities and influencers and had global talks in arenas that really, really shocked me in terms of places around the world where tech and entrepreneurship is taken to another level. So that networking community, we brought it down to a science when it comes to those conversations. And as stated before, over the past decade, I've spoken at over 360 different programs. And one of those content areas that I showcase and have a conversation around, in addition to tech, entrepreneurship, whether it be agriculture, personal branding, it's also real estate. So here at GSC, we have several brands when it comes to industry disruptions and conversations and technology and entrepreneurship. And Ghana Tech Summit is one of our leading programs and initiatives that we do within on the African continent. It's one of our bigger brands within the African continent. And for me personally, in coming to Ghana, doing business in Ghana, one of the top 3 industries that people talk about when it comes to doing business in Ghana is agriculture, energy, and obviously number 1 is property, real estate. It's a big deal here in Ghana. And this is such an amazing time. No matter what your background, you heard my background in tech and entrepreneurship, and my career of building several companies and building my career around the world. And here I am in Ghana because Ghana right now is the place to be for investment opportunity, especially when it comes to the real estate sector. During the 2019 year of return, there was a huge opportunity where Ghana pretty much opened to the world with people of African descent from across the Americas, across Europe, and across different markets around the world were coming to Ghana, not just for cultural immersion, engaging as tourists, but also find different ways to invest, engage, and really build their lifestyles and their future in Ghana. So how does that affect an industry like real estate? When we look at the trends in the real estate industry, Ghana is a rising star on the global real estate stage, as stated by Business Insider. And if you're looking at the data right now, real estate is literally close to 10% of the GDP of the economy. So this means it's a very crucial part of Ghana's economy as a whole. And when you're looking at the demand space, obviously the headlines is the demand coming from the international community, diasporans who are relocating to Ghana, buying property into Ghana, buying land and reinvesting within the country. But there's also opportunity for local developers, right? There's a huge housing deficit that's happening where 1.8 million of 60% of Ghana's urban population need government assistance to get access to housing facilities. So for those of you who are entering the real estate space, it's not just appealing to the international and the diaspora markets coming in, how you capitalizing and supporting and filling the gaps for the local market as well as this trend continues on an upward thread. And of course, shift that when we look at the trends, who are the players in the real estate ecosystem? One thing that I find that's very beautiful right now in the real estate industry in Ghana is that it's very, very clear that we're starting to crystallize and paint a better picture of who the players are within real estate in Ghana. So you have probably 10 key areas in the ecosystem that play a big role when it comes to people who are investing in Ghana, building in Ghana, and just really operating within the real estate industry in general. So of course you have your real estate agents, your bankers, your lawyers, your brokers, your developers. These are 5 key faces that if you are trying to build wealth in Ghana through real estate, you have to interact with one of these 5 key influencers and players. Now, compound that and move that forward to now the agencies and institutional bodies that contribute to the real estate industry. You have the government, where you have to go to lands commission, court to really officialize the paperwork around your housing and your property. Then you have regulators and Minister of Works and Housing. You find so many stories where people have built or bought a land, and unfortunately, they didn't look at the urban planning development plans within the community, and all of a sudden you had to relocate or something has to happen to your property because for one reason or another you didn't go through all the appropriate checks and scrutiny and research to make sure that you're doing this correctly from a not only just from a financial standpoint, but in terms of the paper trail, right? And of course, we have organizations that are supporting the next generation of real estate professionals, like the Ghana Real Estate Professions Association, the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, and government authorities. And the last group of people that I feel like we tend to forget because they're not the ones with the brand names and the key players that people tend to talk to, but these are the development crew. Those are the pretty much the laborers, right? The masons, the carpenters, the welders, the tilers, the plumbers, the surveyors, the electricians, the architects. And I will tell you, as someone who built in Ghana and continue to build in Ghana and do construction, I have an entire team of these players, and I'll tell you, without them, none of this is possible. So do we have a skilled workforce ready to even capitalize on the industry and the rapid trend that's upward for Ghana when it comes to real estate and the economy? So I wanted to add some light to that. So with that said, usually at one of our workshops, I have a full 45-hour session regarding the 10-step process of trying to create wealth in real estate within the country. But for the interest of this real estate summit, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of this conversation and what that looks like if you are trying to invest in real estate in Ghana or any country in that matter. You need to start with top questions like, why Ghana? Why do you want to relocate here? What is your purchasing decision plans? Are you buying during high season? I will tell you, during December, because it's such an active moment, you hear the music in the background. Right now, there's high energy within the country. So prices are a lot higher because so many diasporans and internationals are flooding the market right now. How are you timing your buying decisions with the state of the culture within the country, right? Are you trying to do a land purchase? Are you trying to build? Are you going to finance? Are you going to do a payment plan? All these top questions you need to have on your checklist so that way you can planning 3 to 6 months ahead of time and engaging with the right players, right? And I always tell people when it comes to investing in real estate, you got to pick your path. Are you going to buy the land and build? Are you going to buy the property as intact? And where are you buying the property from? Are you buying from a family, from stool, individuals? Are you going to actually, remove yourself from building or buying as is? But, buying through off plan, maybe you're not ready to move in now, but in 2 years' time, be a part of a estate community planning of property opportunities, able to purchase that way. And there's so much trust in the market now that you're seeing a lot of people putting their money into off-plan offerings within real estate in Ghana, right? And so as you continue to make these buying decisions, look at your real estate choices, the type of residential properties you want to do, the ownership. I always engage with having real estate education around lawyers and legalities around purchasing and engagement with real estate in Ghana. Probably the biggest litigation activity that you see in the courtroom is around land, is around litigation of property. Someone, multiple people buying a property, multiple people buying the land, people competing for, let's say, the rights. Maybe the family comes back and say that we didn't give permission to sell the property. You hear all types of stories, and I'm sure a lot of you have been marred with stories about the nightmares that people have experienced when it comes to the legalities around making sure that you buy a property and invest in a property properly, right? But the point is, we always recommend when you're buying a property, it goes beyond just getting the paperwork and the line title. Do the search at the land commissions, go to the collateral registry, go to the court to see if there's any pending litigation, go to the neighborhood, talk to local neighbors who have been in the community, could tell you, hey, there's this family that's here, there's this road that's happening here. All that combined research will help inform your decision as to whether this is a great investment or opportunity for you and your community to get into, right? And of course, I tend to say that because the ecosystem is evolving, we have a full ecosystem map of all the real estate players in Ghana. And I will tell you, you got to know which developer community you want to tap into. There's a high luxury real estate developers that are in vogue right now, like Gold Key Properties and Trazaco. But you also have that kind of affordable luxury players like Earl Bean Reality. I would say Clifton Homes fall into that, Job Tracker Plus. And then you have the affordable housing areas where it's really geared towards people who are really trying to get on the property ladder, like State Housing Company, which is a government platform, Lakeside, and Autumn City. So you got to know, how do you want to tap into the property ladder and which developer you want to tap into. And by the way, this list is growing so much and we still cannot fit the demand. So it's really a great time to really engage. And of course, probably the biggest transformation we have seen over the past couple of years is the opportunity to be able to finance a mortgage and get into the property ladder through capital funds from the banking sector. And there's a lot of banks right now who have mortgage facilities, loan facilities to be able to help people to purchase their first property in Ghana and invest in property in Ghana. Last but not least, I'll say that to end and to close this section, really consider understanding that the home buying process in Ghana, do not rush that process. Try to avoid bad actors, avoid fake agents, really have communication, don't rush. If something's too good to be true, really take a step back and rethink the opportunity and make sure that you're going through the process. Look for proof of documentation, engage with people, talk to people, and really up your real estate education, because now the information is slowly coming out to the surface for you to be able to tap into Ghana in a way that's fruitful, engaging, and legacy driven, so that way you can provide for your family in the long run. So with that said, to wrap up, definitely tag me on social at Christine and Tim. I talk about real estate, agriculture, and tech and entrepreneurship across all of my social media channels, including personal branding. You can find more updates about the work that I do and the real estate education that I'm providing to the community through social media. So with that said, I do now want to transition a bit before we introduce our final speaker, who will be closing out the program, to give a highlight of one way that we are contributing to the real estate ecosystem in Ghana at Ntim Group. This year, I am so pleased to share that we were one of the few organizations to consistently host a monthly real estate investment workshop series to support people who are trying to either become real estate agents, invest in Ghana. Diasporans every month have found our calendar, and we're able to just tap in and plug in to our players, to our influencers. And it truly has been a phenomenal experience hosting this real estate investment workshop series with close to 40 plus different speakers who are across the real estate sector. Remember, I talked about those players who are in the banking, lawyers, developers, real estate agencies. All spectrum of the industry was able to speak during this workshop series. So I can't stress enough our gratitude, not only to them for their content and insights. I mean, we would have 2-hour-long workshops discussing not only the opportunities for investment, but ways to navigate this real estate industry. And so I'm pleased to share that we will be continuing those offerings into 2024 at Ntim Group. Feel free to engage with us via ntimgroup.com or email our team if you want to get involved with any of our webinars, workshops, tours. Of course, we'll have the next edition of the Real Estate Future Summit next year, expos, retreats, and accelerated training programs. Stay tuned and follow us for more information. And just to give you a trickle down memory lane, when we kicked off this real estate workshop series, we started off by doing virtual webinar sessions. And then that culminated into these live in-person workshops where we did it in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and I'm flipping through the screens here so you can see the visual announcements of the work that we did throughout the year, October, November, and December. And to culminate to today, where we are all as an ecosystem, as an industry, saying for the first time, let's come together and impart that wisdom and that knowledge so we not only can get more diasporans coming back to Ghana and invest in the real estate industry, but also the local influencers who are trying to build their careers within a specific industry. Real estate is a great investment. It's a great opportunity. And the trend is telling us that the time is now for you to tap into this industry and really capitalize on all the different fruits of opportunity that are available for you in Ghana when it comes to real estate. So with that, thank you so much for joining us this year for the theme of Real Estate Renaissance, Pioneering Pathways to Global Horizons, and being at this Real Estate Future Summit. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over now to our next speaker, who's going to provide concluding remarks. Einstein and Tim from the Diaspora Affairs Office will be now giving you engagement for today's session. Please give them a warm welcome, everyone, as we engage them for the closing remarks of the Real Estate Future Summit. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hi, that was a great transition. Thank you so much for the remarks, Christine. Thank you so much to all the speakers who've been part of this conversation. Thank you to the team who built this platform and actually made this whole session even possible and feasible. And of course, thank you to all the people who are working hard to transform and grow the real estate sector, which is a very, very important sector in all our lives, right? And that leads me to the point I want to make, right? It says that the single biggest generator of wealth in society is real estate, right? And especially home ownership, right? So people have heard many times about the American dream, because almost every dream story has some type of real estate property ownership attached to it, right? And it's very important that for every country, or for a country to become a high income nation, for a country to become a wealthy nation, the people and the citizens of that country have to become wealthy in that regard. And so that means it's very important that even the country and the nation supports the wealth generation of its citizens, and thus people becoming more property owners. So it's a mandate that literally most people, it's possible to become homeowners themselves. And do recognize that nowadays, because of the way the cost of living crisis, the way financial markets can operate sometimes, it's very hard for people to become owners and become part of the property ladder. In Ghana right now, Christine mentioned that we have about 2 million housing deficit, right? But yet there are people who are looking for houses, and yet when you go across the streets and the townships across the country, there are empty there are buildings that have been completed, but they're empty. So there's definitely a gap and an inconsistency there that needs to be addressed. And that can take place if people either start earning more money, having a higher income to be able to do so. And of course, the market players themselves working, understanding the market conditions in order to reduce the prices effectively, to have mortgages and platforms in place that can allow people to get on this property ladder, because that's incredibly important. So when we talk about the future of real estate, we're looking at, of course, the luxury end, but also the everyday people who also need to become part of this real estate market and of this real estate sector. So I do urge us all to look at how we can transform and improve and just improve the sector in general, so that more people can become part of it. And if that happens, again, the system itself and even the home ownership group themselves will become more wealthier. So it's a win-win across the board. So we need to do better to help improve that scenario. So in looking at the future of real estate, we have to look at that aspect incredibly importantly, right? But also leveraging these digital mediums to help educate people. Right now, people are able to buy homes and buy houses digitally, even digitally. So it's important that we also have more of these conversations, more of these platforms, more of these dialogues to allow this to be made possible. And I urge all people, we're talking about Ghana here right now, I urge all people, especially Ghanaians, to try and aspire to become homeowners, but also the diasporans who are abroad. Here is a very robust marketplace to get involved in the housing market, get involved in the housing conversation. There is still a financial market, a capital market here that can support these type of activities, whether it's mortgages, whether it's like leverage capital to help you in order to do so. Groups coming together to do that is all very, very important. So the last thing what I want us to have is to challenge ourselves to all become homeowners, property owners, and to grow our wealth as individuals, to improve, of course, our standing, right, and also to learn about the marketplace. One of my biggest tenets that I have as an individual is that anything that's something that it's an important part of my life, I want to make sure I spend time to learn about it. So I'm a Christian, for example, and I spent about 5 years learning about the Christian faith, the stories, through an entire ministerial course. I'm not a minister, but I did that so I can better understand the faith that I'm a part of. Real estate and housing is something that affects all of us. We all have to live somewhere. So why not spend the time to really understand it in a dynamic and important way? So please, let's grow our knowledge base, let's grow our understanding, and let's get involved and also support others to be able to get on the property market as well. Thank you very much, and thank you for this incredible platform. You can connect with us, of course, at ntimgroup.com, info@Ntim Group, and even myself on LinkedIn, LinkedIn/EinsteinNtim. Thank you very much, and I look forward to connecting with those who are quite keen to get to know more. Cheers.